Ladies and gentlemen, our referee has called a stop to this contest, declaring the winner by knockout and new MMA show! Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another exciting round of and new MMA show. I'm your host, Michael Hansen, and I do all kinds of stupendous things with microphones because I'm a ring announcer. And I'm joined this week, as I always am, by my two friends who bring MMA punditry to new heights, dare I say. Introducing to you first, from New York, all in white this week, Marc Priaulx. What's up, bud?
What is up, boys? Our video of Mike is not working. I know you guys can see him, but we can't see him, and I'm missing that handsome face on the intro. So that's unfortunate. But yeah, this is becoming my new MO because we keep fucking starting late, but I ain't going to talk much because we have a big-ass episode, and it is already 10 o'clock our time, so let's move.
All right,
I'll say one thing.
Oh, yeah.
The Knicks just
please.
scored 142 points and smoked the fucking Nets. So, yeah, take that.
Yeah, I saw that, what's his name, had 30 at halftime. Brunson.
Fuck yeah.
Go Sports.
Tremendous news. 7 in a row now. Hey, introducing now from Florida, the Sunshine State. He is the Nicaraguan nightmare, Omar Artola. What's up, man?
What's going on? A big night or big weekend for Tampa Muay Thai, as Mike would know better than anyone. Our boy Chase Brooks beat the shit out of some gentlemen in Queens, New York, and came home with the belt, walked into the gym like a semi-god. And it was fantastic.
That's awesome.
He put the belt up in the gym, too, so we added it to the little
cool.
collection
Good for him,
of
man.
belts that are there.
That's sick.
Yeah, dude. I'm actually kind of jealous you got to see him fight in person, man. He's kind of a wonder
He's
to watch,
very
that
good.
kid. Yeah.
And look, he didn't, I will give you a slight correction. I don't think he quite, I mean, he TKO'd the guy, I think. And I would say he beats the shit out of him. The guy he fought, his name was Brendan Dreyer. Brendan or Brandon? I think it's Brendan Dreyer. Very super talented guy. Very good. And
I
Chase
will
just
admit
kinda
I may
kept
be
pulling away.
maybe
Kept
slightly
pulling away.
biased.
You're slightly biased, but Chase definitely kind of kept pulling away and just accumulating more damage. Great work in the clinch. Landed a ton of elbows on Dreyer and came away with a really impressive win. And his parents were there. His parents flew up with him, I think. And
Nice.
his parents were sitting right in front of me where I was sitting in the VIP section. So
Oh, wow. Were they
very,
stressed?
very happy for them. They were super stressed. They were so stressed because also, real quick, they wanted me, the promoters wanted me to do a segment on commemorating Victoria Lee's passing.
Oh, really?
Wow.
And they gave me like a little blurb, but they never said when exactly they want to do it. They just wanted me to do it at some point in the middle of the night.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that Chase's parents overheard a conversation that I was having with one of the promoters about it, and they turned to me and they were like, "Weren't you just going to do that?" And I was like, "I never got an official okay. I'll do it after the next one." Well, then after the next one was right before Chase's fight, and I could tell that his parents were pissed. That I could tell that they wanted me to do it the time before, because they were afraid that Chase was going to get frozen up there, waiting in the wings to come out. But that's what happened. But it didn't matter because he had a great performance and they were super happy. So props to them. Super lovely folks, by the way. Anyway, yeah, it was a great weekend overall. Just to recap for me, Warriors Cup 50. It was their 50th event. They started a number of years ago, basically in a gymnasium, and they've grown to quite a large organization now. Now headed by a promoter called Three Pillar Promotions. They've linked up with the WBC. WBC created a Muay Thai division, created amateur belts, pro belts that I've had the privilege to announce a few of, and they just linked up with one championship, and this past weekend was the first official Road to One, the beginning of their lightweight tournament, and 2 great fights. Can't wait for the next. It's gonna be great. Okay, let's do our show.
I do have one thing to report that I feel like I need to
report it.
share, because we have been weathermen on this show so many times, and I have referenced so many times how there has not been any snow in New York, and my son has been dying over the lack of snow, and we finally got like, I don't know what, 3 or 4 inches of snow, and my son was in heaven and did all the snow activities. So we have done it in New York.
Awesome, man. Hey, congrats, dude. Congrats.
Congratulations.
I wish I could send you some of mine.
On
All right.
Now I hope we get no more.
Yeah.
I just found out the pool in the back is actually open now.
No way.
So
Oh my God, dude.
Shut
it's fantastic. I can't wait.
Oh, my God.
I can't wait. Sled my ass right into the pool. I'll tell you that.
All right, guys. Well, let's run down the show real quick. We're going to talk about the MMA action from Bellator 1 Championship and UFC from this past weekend. We're going to get some full recaps going for you guys. We're going to lightning round the rest of the UFC Fight Night card. We're going to find out who rose and fell in Mark's very own rankings system, the Priaulx Rankings. Then we're going to find out what's new in the world of MMA outside of the cage with our segment Inside the MMA Sphere, which Omar heads up. And then we're going to turn our attention to this coming weekend's massive pay-per-view, UFC 285, Jones versus Gane. Absolutely stacked card. Can't wait. Love these kinds of weekends, man. And then we're going to end with a little bit of trivia. Before we get into any fight talk, gentlemen, let us first thank our audience. If you're watching this on YouTube right now and you've made it this far through our banter, thank you so much. If you want audio only, we got you there. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts. In terms of the YouTube channel, if you want to leave a comment, that is our absolute favorite way of engaging with our audience. But of course, you can also, for free, hit the thumbs up button and subscribe to our channel. Never miss a video. And of course, you can find us on social media. You can find us on all the places at @&new_MMA show. Okay, let's get going. This week, the name on the marquee has got to be Yaroslav Amosov, who this past weekend at Bellator 291, Amosov versus Storley 2, defeated, once again, Logan Storley, this time by unanimous decision. Shutout on the scorecards, 50-45, all 3 judges. Mark, let me send it over to you first. Give us your reactions of Amosov getting it done once again by unanimous decision, staying undefeated.
What a friggin' return for Yaroslav Amosov to be out as long as he was. We touched on it last week. If you watched the Bellator broadcast, they did a great little segment on it, but this man was in the Ukraine, defending his country, actively fighting in the war, comes back now, fresh off of that, dives back into training, and to look that good is wild. But yeah, in case you forgot, he returned to remind everyone that he is one of the best welterweights on the planet. And this thing was a mismatch for every single second that it lasted. Like, Storley was pieced up 2 minutes into that fight. Amosov's footwork was so good, in and out, quick counters. He did an incredible job of stringing combos together. Like, in moments where guys would normally kind of reset after an exchange, he would extend that exchange by 2 or 3 more shots, and that's when he was really landing and hurting Logan. He was stuffing takedowns all fight. He was making Logan pay anytime that he stepped in. I mean, Storley couldn't even figure out how to attempt to fight his fight. He just was getting stuck at every turn. And not to mention, Amosov was ripping the shit out of Storley's legs all fight long. They were torn up by the end. I mean, Logan Storley absorbed a beating by the time that fight was over, and Amosov fought a perfect fight. So, I mean, yeah, okay, Logan Storley is probably not an elite level welterweight. I'm not sure exactly where he'd stack up, say, if he was in the UFC. But he is solid, and I think it's time to start wondering where Yaroslav Amosov stacks up, because the man is 29-0, and he just put on a masterclass.
He sure did. Omar, let's bring you in here. Give us your reaction of Amosov getting it done once again, staying undefeated now, 27-0 over Logan Storley.
Oh, it's 27? I said 29, my fault.
You might be right.
It was a perfect performance. I think the one thing that Logan Storley had going for him, and I mean probably the one thing he had going for him in that fight, was a check right hook from the southpaw stance. That, I think, was the only thing that ever even really touched Amosov the entire fight and kept him somewhat at bay from not barraging and blitzing him continuously. But there was a lot of that. There were a lot of clean shots that landed that were followed up by forward pressure and forward shots. It was interesting to watch the fight because the first 2 rounds I was watching this fight and I was like, isn't Storley a wrestler? Doesn't he go for takedowns? And I was like, what the fuck is happening? Why are you like just standing with this guy? And he didn't go for nearly as many takedowns. And I think the 3rd round is when he turned it up from a takedown perspective and still couldn't do anything about it. And so it makes you wonder when a guy like Storley can't get a takedown in a fight like he couldn't in this one, what does he do? And I think that's where his discomfort really came from in a majority of that fight, was because he didn't really have any answers to what he brought to the table other than takedowns. And when those didn't work, nothing else did.
Yeah, I think it was maybe Big John that pointed it out. Maybe not. Maybe it was the other dude. I forget who was Big John's partner that night. But he said that he felt like Storley, and we mentioned this about the cardio being a potential thing. Obviously, it was not.
Sure.
Amosov was totally fine. But he mentioned thinking that Storley maybe didn't hit the gas takedown-wise in the first couple rounds, thinking like, this is going to come. I just got to kind of let him work a little bit, and then I'll take over. And then by the time he realized Amosov wasn't going away, it was just he was already fucked. So maybe that played into it. But, yeah, he's had fights where he doesn't like go for the takedown so much before. Like he fought Neiman Gracie, and obviously he didn't want to play a ton on the ground with him. And he was able to land on kind of like he was able to lean on kind of like a brawling style that he can fight. Like I said last week, he's not any kind of clean striker, but he can kind of brawl in there. But Amosov didn't even allow it. Amosov was so clean and so in and out that there wasn't even an opportunity for Storley to make it ugly. So he just, both options he had didn't exist, and he just had to kind of stand there and be a punching bag.
Mark, question for you, because your personal rankings system is exclusively, as of now, UFC. So Amosov now is 27-0 as a professional. If you were to just pluck him and plop him down into your UFC ranking, where would he be?
That's a question.
It's a fun one.
He'd be at least
throw it out there.
7. If I'm putting the champ as 1 instead of champ, if I'm just like making the top 10 welterweights, there'd be 6 guys that I'd have to put over him: Leon Usman, Colby Chimaev, Bilal, and Burns, just because of their resumes. Not saying I think they'd all 100% beat him, but I'm just saying if I'm ranking guys, I think their resumes are too strong. I think he's probably in the mix of like Neal and Luque and Masvidal and Wonder Boy. He's right. He's in there somewhere, right in that area.
Totally. What about you, Amar? Any intuition you have about that?
I mean, I would probably put him maybe above Wonder Boy, but below Burns. Probably right in that area.
Yeah, it's tough because it's the typical Bellator problem. It's like, okay, he beat Logan Storley twice.
Yeah.
He beat Douglas Lima.
Yeah.
What else? He did beat Roberto Soldic by split decision back, I think that was like 5 years ago. But besides that, it's not like there's a ton on that resume, so it's very hard to call it. But
Totally.
Yeah.
he's another
It's
one of these guys.
subjective, for sure.
You'd love to see him fight a couple more names that we're familiar with, you know?
Hell yeah.
I think the performances, though, also speak to a certain extent. I mean, the way he fought that fight and how consistently he fought that fight for 5 rounds and made it worse and worse. You know, he really dragged? I don't know. He took Storley into deep waters that night.
Oh, I see.
Took him there.
I think dragged.
It's dragged, right?
I don't think it's
When I
drugged.
say drug, I'm like, doesn't sound right.
No.
And the fact that he's undefeated. Anyone with an O in their record
Sure.
always feels a little more like maybe he's
That's
great.
special.
because you haven't seen anyone, do it.
Yeah. A lot of times, though, they could be fluffed up and, kind of guys that can't wrestle at all, and maybe he's got a very basic wrestling game. Like, we've seen some of that going on, too. But to be fair, Amosov, I think, is one of those guys that has, like I said, the performances to stand behind the record that he has. I think it shows value.
I've heard people say before that the early half of his record is very empty. But even so, I feel like he has reached a point now where he's kind of overcome that knock.
Yeah, he has 27 fights.
27 fights without losing.
Yeah.
That's quite a bit. What's next for Storley? Mark, you have any sense of what Storley has in his future?
So I think it's pretty expected that it's going to be Jason Jackson at this point, who has looked really good in his Bellator run. I want to say he's 5 or 6-0, 6-0, I think. But his last 3 are he beat Neiman Gracie, he beat Paul Daly, he beat Douglas Lima, and he's doing it without much issue. So it's an interesting challenge. Of course, Amosov will be the favorite, but it is at least a worthwhile fight that he's got coming up because Jason Jackson has looked very good. And I know he intentionally didn't take another fight because it didn't really seem like it made sense for him to fight anyone else because he was kind of right there. So I think he was just kind of waiting for the winner of this one, and now we'll see.
Yeah, man, Jackson's good. He
is.
Yes. Mark, let me stay with you here. Give us sort of your quick Bellator rundown of the rest of Bellator 291 before we move on to One Championship.
Okay, so mainly I'll just focus on the co-main, which was the other one that we previewed last week, which was Jeremy Kennedy fighting Pedro Carvalho. Kennedy won this one by a super clear UD. It was all Kennedy, really. Pedro, from jump, I thought seemed tentative on the feet. You could tell he was very conscious of the takedown and the clinch, and because of that, he didn't really press his advantage. I think he was just afraid of throwing too hard and letting Kennedy grab him, but because of that, Kennedy just was able to grab him anyway. And Kennedy is a really, really good wrestler and grappler. Like, honestly, probably deserves more credit than he gets for his game. That guy's pretty top shelf. And he's only got, I should have probably had this prepared, I want to say he's got 3 losses, Jeremy Kennedy, in his whole career, and, like, one of them is to Volk. Like, his resume is, he has 3 losses, 19-3-1. He's got a loss to Adam Boric, Volk, and then one little bit random loss, which was that guy Luis Laurentino. He used to fight in the PFL, whose record wasn't terrible either, if I'm remembering right. So the man has a pretty good resume, and at this point, I think he's probably going to be next in line to fight Pitbull. He said it in the cage. I know Pitbull has teased that he wants to go down to bantamweight and try to win a belt in a third weight class, which would obviously be awesome. But he still has to wait for Stotts and Patchy Mix to fight each other, and then I would assume the winner of that to unify the belt with Sergio Pettis. So I don't know who Pitbull thinks he's fighting anytime soon, so I think he probably has to defend that 145 one more time. And it seems like Jeremy Kennedy's that guy. Can he beat Pitbull? I wouldn't pick it, but he deserves the shot. That's for sure. So that's that one. And then I'll just look quick on what else was reportable here. Peter Queally lost again. Yeah. This guy.
R.I.P., man. And he was winning.
Yeah. I mean,
he got elbowed to hell. Just Jesus.
I have said it before on here. I've never been a Peter Queally guy. He got really elevated in Bellator from when he cut Patricky Pitbull and got a win by the cut. I've never seen it. I've never thought he was that good. I didn't think he'd lose this fight. I thought finally they were like, okay, we'll give him someone where he gets the win, the hometown crowd, and my man got finished. So tough run that Peter Queally's on. Sinead Kavanaugh got a close decision win over Janae Harding, avenged a prior loss that she had. Kieran Clark, who again is a nice prospect in Bellator right now, still hasn't really fought anyone too relevant. He looked great again, got another win by UD. The way they were talking post-fight kind of made me think maybe they feel like he's at the point for him to fight someone who we're actually aware of. Mm-hmm. So we'll see what he does there. And then Oleg Popov beat Gokhan Sarakam, who has been solid in Bellator thus far. Oleg Popov is a dude who is 15-1. Well, he's now 16-1. So he recently beat Bigfoot Silva. He's one of the many who have knocked out Bigfoot Silva in recent years. But that was his Bellator debut, and I think he may have the talent to actually be a new name in that Bellator heavyweight division. And I guess that's all I'll walk through right now. It was a long card, a lot of other fights that I could mention, but I won't keep us here all day.
Okay. Let us now slide over to ONE Championship, who this past weekend had one Fight Night 7, Lineker versus Andrade 2, the rematch between John Lineker and Fabricio Andrade. And Fabricio Andrade defeated John Lineker by TKO via corner stoppage following round 4. Omar, let me send it over to you this time. What was your reaction of the fight overall, of Andrade's performance, and ultimately the merciful corner stoppage?
Man, they picked it. Omar believed. We didn't believe.
Successful pick, baby. Listen, man, that fight was great. That fight was competitive, but I think the jab and the length played to Andrade's played to his benefit. The size difference I thought was fucking crazy. I don't know. Was I the only one? I think I said it. I think I texted you guys on the night. But like Andrade looked significantly taller and bigger than.
Oh, I said it the first time. They're listed as having a 3-inch height difference, and there's no fucking way. It's like 7 inches. It's gigantic.
Yeah, that dude he's significantly taller than Lineker.
Yeah.
Lineker couldn't even reach him half the time.
No.
And I think that was really the story of the fight, to be honest, was Lineker's inability to really get inside and really reach him. Andrade really spammed on the jabs and eventually kind of got to the point where Lineker's eye started to blow up little by little, and it was legitimately closed by the time it was all said and done. I understand the decision. I don't think it was a bad one. His eye was, I think, going inside out at one point. It was swelling so bad. But it was a competitive fight, man. You know what I mean? Lineker, even in the worst of situations, is still throwing bombs, and you lose your shit for a second. Andrade could have been face down on that canvas, man. So it was a competitive fight. Andrade was on his tippy toes and moving around and staying light, putting shots heavy when he needed to, and moving out of the way, never really giving Lineker a chance to return the way I think Lineker usually likes to return. And the bulldog approach just didn't work for him, and he paid for it this weekend.
Yeah, man. Mark, bringing you in, give us your reaction of the corner stoppage and of the fight overall between Andrade and Lineker.
So it's funny because I kind of feel like I nailed this one for like about 3+ rounds. Like the way that it went is exactly how I had pictured it in my brain. Like that's exactly how I thought that fight was going to look. John Lineker came in with what I thought was a significantly better game plan. I thought he looked far more prepared to deal with the weapons of Andrade. Obviously, the one that there was not a lot he could do about was the jab, simply because of the length. But I thought he was dealing with the knees way better, the kicks way better. He was ready to mix in his wrestling early because he understood that he had that advantage. And he was very specifically ready to go to the body. Like that kept Andrade guessing. That let Lineker land some bigger shots to overcome the reach disadvantage that he was stuck at. It let him rack up points when Andrade would step in. Andrade in the first fight did a lot of step-in knees and things like that. This fight, as he came in, he kept getting ripped to the body by Lineker. So I thought Lineker made a lot of great adjustments. Of course, Andrade looked good too. The size is just such a huge factor. That jab was the key to the entire fight, just because, as I said, there's not a lot Lineker could do about it. Obviously, by the end of it, he had torn Lineker's face up. I actually read that his corner said both of his eyes were closed, and that's why they threw it in. So I couldn't tell that on the broadcast, but that's what.
Me either.
Wow. I'm forgetting who was in his corner now, but that is what he said. But honestly, my takeaway from this, and I said it to you guys already, is that I would like to see Fabricio Andrade heavily drug tested. Like John Lineker's name is Hands of Stone. The man puts everyone down, everyone. And he landed so many body shots with so much power, and Andrade was never affected even a little bit. Like, he ate 30 hammers to his stomach and was just like, got me again. Let me reset. Like, it doesn't make sense to my brain. I don't understand how he did not get hurt. And that's why I picked Lineker, because I thought he could land more. and I thought a TKO would come because he's fucking John Lineker. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Andrade is just one of the toughest dudes in the world, and I should be giving him credit. I don't know, but sometimes the way guys absorb things feels abnormal to me, and I got to say this was one of these fights where I didn't understand how nothing was hurting him. But either way, he survived it. He kept pouring it on, and he made Lineker throw in the towel. So maybe I'm wrong. I don't want to assume that I'm right and crap on the guy. And obviously he's the new bantamweight king of one, but we'll never know, I guess.
Anything you guys want to say about what could be next for Andrade and Lineker?
So I know for Andrade, Mike's face froze in such a funny place. For Andrade, they said that it's going to be Stephen Lohman, who is 3-0 in one thus far. He just beat Bibiano Fernandez. I guess he is going to be the next guy in line here, so I think that's where we're going there. For Lineker, I think, honestly, he could take some time. He's a couple fights now where he definitely took some damage and then just return against whoever's in that mix right there.
Nice. Okay. Omar, did you watch any of the
Yes.
Tell
Real
us about
quick. So I learned that a lot of these names are apparently the gyms that they're affiliated with.
Yeah,
So-
like Stan Fairtex.
I didn't know that, dude. So I know Sanchai as Sanchai. Like, to me, there's one Sanchai. That is not the case. Apparently, Sanchai, I guess, is a gym or something, because there's another Sanchai that fought this weekend who is not the Sanchai that I knew. I will tell you, though, if you watch him, his name is Tawanchai Sanchai. That fight was crazy. That fight was like a minute long. He kicked that man 3 times in his leg. By the third kick, that man was crawling to a corner. The referee was like, "You're good. You're done. It's over." Commentators were like, his femur's broken, all kinds of crazy shit.
God.
I don't know if it was actually broken. I will tell you this. It was a perfect leg kick. It hit right on the thigh, right on the meat, and he was done. It's one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen.
Wow.
So, there it is.
Muay Thai is
Highly recommend.
Yeah, I remember you texted, and I meant to watch it, and I forgot. I got to
Dude.
find that fight.
how I watched it.
So good.
And it's
so
it's
good.
also very it's very unassuming. Like, it just looks like a leg kick, but the guy just he cripples. Anyway, let's move on. Let's now turn our attention to UFC Fight Night. Muniz versus Allen from this past weekend at the UFC Apex. Let's talk about this main event. In the middleweight division, Brendan Allen gets the biggest win of his career. Oh, real quick, let's talk about why that was the main event.
True.
Yeah, because Krylov got sick, right? He got a stomach virus.
I think he got food poisoning or something.
Yep, that's what it was. Food
And so
poisoning.
the main event got scrapped. Sorry, Ryan Spann. And the co-main moved up into the main event slot. So middleweights, Brendan Allen and Andre Muniz faced off, and Brendan Allen gets the biggest win of his career thus far by getting a submission win over Andre Muniz in the third round, coming at 4 minutes and 25 seconds. Mark, let's start with you. Give us your reaction. You've been on the Brendan Allen train for a little bit now. You proud of your guy? Let us know.
And then I didn't pick him, though, which doesn't make me look
That's
so
true.
good. But I'll
Muniz is a
get to
monster.
that. Huge win for him. I am so mad I didn't pick him. This was really competitive in round one in the striking. I thought they were each landing some big, clean shots. I thought Muniz actually looked pretty good striking. Then Allen ends up on top by the time round one ends. He does totally fine for about a minute in Muniz's guard. He moves to side control, scores some points there. And already you're kind of like, wow, like, all right, that didn't seem too hard. Then we get to round two, and Brendan Allen fucking works Andre Muniz on the ground. He works him. Like, it wasn't close. Muniz wasn't even defending well. He wasn't threatening with anything. I think I'm ready to say that we have been hoodwinked and bamboozled by Andre Muniz into thinking that he had some elite jiu-jitsu game. Like, yes, he subbed Fabinski, okay. He subbed Eric Anders, okay. I think that sub of Jacare kind of fooled us all into thinking this man is more elite than he is. I understand he's a black belt. I'm not trying to say he's like not that. But I think it was a bit of a mirage. Like, think about it now. We thought he looked off against Uriah Hall. I don't think that he was now. I think his ground game is just not what we thought it was. And I think that Jacare finish kind of tricked us into thinking this man was like the next Jacare or the next Damian Maia. And he is not. He didn't look like he was even on Brendan Allen's level on the mat. Allen worked him. He's not supposed to be doing that if Muniz is the grappler that he has been billed as, that we thought he was. So I think he got exposed here. I think we found out that he is not that guy. And I think that either way, it is still a huge win for Brendan Allen. He certainly announced himself. He got the main event shine. Happy to see that. Really excited to see what he does next. But, yeah, my main takeaway was just I think we were fooled by Andre Muniz.
Omar, let me throw it over to you. Give us your take of Brendan Allen getting it done over Andre Muniz.
Goes to show you can't trust me. Fucking believe anything. Because I was looking at that fight like, God damn. Brendan Allen's top game must be fucking crazy. Like if he's doing this to Muniz, he must have some crazy ass pressure from the top. But
I think that's probably valid too. But if you
Mark's
just
like,
look at how Muniz was moving, it was like, I don't know.
Did we all pick Muniz? I'm pretty sure I did.
You picked Allen, dude.
Oh, shit. Look at me.
Congratulations.
Sorry, Omar. Go ahead.
No, dude, it was a good fight, man. And honestly, by the time I was done with it, I knew I had picked Muniz, but shit, I was happy for Allen, man. I was very happy for Allen. I thought it was a great performance, a hell of a way to capitalize on a very rare opportunity to just kind of pop up, right? Like, co-main event on a card no one really gave that big of a shit about. But then, the main event happens or doesn't happen. I felt bad for Span. Span looked like he took it real hard. And Brendan Allen gets to take the top spot and puts on an absolute performance that you could replay over and over again. So I was happy for him, man. I really was.
He was scaring me a little bit because Muniz was landing some bombs, I believe, in the third round. Am I right?
First round.
First round as well?
It only went 2 rounds. It was over midway through the second round.
No, third
No,
round.
it went 3 rounds.
Am I drunk? That was the third round that he subbed him in?
Yeah.
You're drunk.
Oh, shit. So I'm blending
Either
rounds.
way,
Okay.
throughout that fight, on the feet, I thought that Muniz was looking pretty good. And Muniz also,
Yeah, I agree.
is it me? I feel like Andre Muniz has the frame. Like, if he wanted to go become a bodybuilder and compete in the Olympia, his frame would fucking blow up. Because the man is, he seems massive.
See,
Like,
I
Brendan
wonder
Allen
if
seems
that's
like a regular guy in shape.
I wonder if that's good, if that's really what the issue is, right? Like, is Andre Muniz relying more on his strength and his technique? Is he gassing more because he looks like a goddamn Adonis? Like, does he need to tone it down a little bit more and like focus on the
great
endurance
physique
more
overall.
than the strength?
Just like his
But if
shoulders are like so wide. Like, he just has this massive frame.
But if he tries to muscle everything and he's not using his technique on the ground, he's not going to be doing much, especially when guys are using technique. And Brendan Allen is not a small dude. Like, you gotta use your brain for those moments, man.
It could be a factor because you look back at his 3 submission wins in the UFC, they're all first round. So maybe he's that guy. Maybe he's the guy that you make him go past 5 minutes and the game's not quite there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sure. Okay, let's move on now to, or you want to talk about what's next for Brendan Allen, the winner? Mark, you got a name for me? If you're the matchmaker of the UFC, put on that hat. Tell me what you would do with Brendan Allen next.
It's not my favorite name in the world, but I think it's probably what makes sense. I really wanted to give him someone sexier, but there's a lot of guys matched up. I feel like I couldn't justify some of it. So my answer is going to be Jack Hermanson. I feel like it's an appropriate enough next step for Brendan Allen where if he got that W, he would be firmly into some big fights.
Another guy with strong grappling skills.
Yeah.
Big test. What about you, Omar? Any other names?
I don't know if these guys have. I can't remember if they have anything scheduled or not. I don't think that they do.
They probably do. All these middleweights do.
But I was looking at Roman Delites
Vittori.
as the next one. Vittori?
That's who he's fighting, yeah. Yeah.
And Brunson? What about Brunson?
We're previewing him in fucking 20 more minutes, dude.
See?
Dude, Delites is fucking terrifying. Isn't he terrifying?
So we'll take Hermanson then, I guess. There's not really many options up there without bumping him all the way to the top at this point.
Yeah, I agree. I want to put Muniz in there with someone who can grapple. So I was actually looking at Caio Borralho, who is fighting
Nice.
Michal Oleksiejczuk. If he wins that fight, that's where I want to go. I want to see Muniz in there with another guy that can grapple, see if he gets exposed again, and then I freaking take my take and I stamp it.
I thought Delites would be a good test in that regard as well, because I thought he's a really good grappler, and his pace is crazy as fuck.
Muniz ain't deserving Delites right now.
Well,
let's
I
move
guess
on.
that's fair. Should be going down, not up.
One other fight that we want to sort of break down for you guys before we hop into a lightning round for the rest of the card. In the women's flyweight division, the triumphant return of Tatiana Suarez, defeating Montana De La Rosa by submission via guillotine choke at 2 minutes 51 seconds of round number 2. Omar, start us off with this one. The return of Tatiana Suarez. She looks great. What's your take?
Before we begin, how dare you, sir? Justice for my man Augusto Sakai. How dare you, sir?
Stop. The man lost four in a row, and he wins a fight by decision. Stop.
Let's go. He
next.
was the
He's
co-main
next.
event.
But he's in the lightning round. He ain't getting the spotlight that's
This
Suarez.
is terrible.
Are you
This is
like on
terrible.
the Sakai train here?
Because I picked him, absolutely.
He's just happy because he picked it. That's all.
Goddamn right. All right. Anyway, Tatiana Suarez. That was a great performance, especially considering she went up in weight. She had a little trouble with the takedowns in the first round against Montana. I think everybody was making a bigger deal out of it than it really was, for being wholly honest. Tatiana Suarez looked relatively dominant in there, I thought. By the time we got to the second round, she found the takedown, she found the control, and she slowly started to kind of work her and got her into a position where she ended up eating her alive. So Tatiana Suarez looked fantastic, man. She kind of looked as good as I thought she was going to look. I think she's going to be a real problem. She's talking about dropping down again, that the 125 was, I guess, just her return fight. So she'll be going down to 115. If she can make those cuts successfully, that's a real problem at that division. So it's a good fight.
Mark,
You have been long awaiting the return of Suarez. Give us your take of how the fight went.
I have. Yeah, I mean, Montana battled, man. I'll say that for her. She didn't break at any point. She made Suarez work, but Suarez is just like glue. Yeah, she was maybe a little rusty. Some entries looked like they were maybe a little sluggish, but she settled in. And that finishing transition from underhooks to a front headlock to a guillotine was nasty. And even in that, Montana was battling, but that squeeze was tight, and it wasn't coming off. So a great finish for Tatiana in her return. Definitely the finish helped her announce herself, I would say, and it's awesome to see her back and winning again.
Absolutely. Sticking with you here, Mark, give us the name of who would be next for Suarez at women's flyweight.
So she said post-fight that this was a one-off and that she intends to return back down to 115, which is not what I've seen her say in some prior interviews. So I don't know when her mind changed here, but if she is going back down, I don't know how soon that Mackenzie Dern-Angela Hill fight is. So let's look if that's not for a long time, because I'm sure Suarez doesn't want to be sitting that long again. Ah, fuck, it's not till May. All right. I really wanted to say you see if Dern wins that fight and then go Suarez and Dern, because that sounds so fun. But I don't know. We'll see. If not that, I think the other option is you just go straight to Rose.
Wow. You go straight to Rose. Oh, my God. That's crazy.
I mean,
Omar,
she's
what
already
about you?
beat girls like Esparza. Like, she has already. I know it was a while ago, but she's done this already.
Whew. Omar, any other bright ideas for Suarez? What you would do with her next?
I mean, I think she called out Rose, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, did she? I didn't even see that.
I believe she did. And I like it. I like it a lot. Hopefully it's more enjoyable than the Esparza Rose fight. But I like it a lot.
Okay. Want to mention anything about De La Rosa? No, let's just move on. We got a long episode.
I have no
lightning
idea what
round.
Mike is saying. I can't even hear him anymore.
You can't hear me?
He said, "Is there anything else for De La Rosa if we want to pick anything for her?"
Oh,
And
no,
I was
no.
like,
Let's go to lightning.
Okay, lightning round. Mark and Omar will give their quickest lightning takes, a phrase perhaps or two, for the rest of these fights on this UFC Fight Night card. Let's begin with Omar's co-main event in the heavyweight division. Augusto Sakai gets back in the win column, decisioning Dontel Mays 30-27s across the board. Omar, go first.
"Yes, sir." Augusto Sakai reminding people he might be a gatekeeper, but
Let
he
the run
ain't losing
begin.
to Dontel Mays. So that's all it is there. Let's
Mark.
go.
Yeah, he looked very calm and composed, which is not how he has looked recently. Those knees from the headlock position in round one were nasty. But let me say, though, Dontel Mays wasn't doing a fucking thing to try to
Not
escape
one
that
thing.
position. Like, at least drop to a knee if you can't get out. Don't just stand there and get kneed 100 times. But anyway, by round two, I thought Mays looked terribly slow. I think Sakai hanging on him in round one just drained anything he had. He had nothing left to offer. But, props to Sakai. He fought a smart fight. He didn't take any risks. He leaned on his strengths, and that's exactly what he needed to do at this point. He make sure you get a win, and he did.
Word. Okay, let's see. Fun one. Mike Malott in the welterweight division. Mike Malott submissions Johan Lainus.
Submissions.
I know. I'm trying to come up with new shit, man. He pulls off a nice arm triangle choke over Johan Lainus. I think I'm saying that name right. 4 minutes 15 seconds of round number one. Mark, go first.
Yeah, this was a good one. Both guys were tentative early. You could tell that they both respected the power. But then once I'm saying it was a good one, not a good fight. I'm saying a good performance from Malott.
Oh yeah.
Because once he got the takedown, the pendulum in that fight swings drastically because he had a significant advantage down there. And Lainez was defending well for a bit, but Malott just worked step by step to improve that position, and then locks up a beautiful arm triangle that he made even tighter once he stepped to mount. So he looks like a pretty talented guy thus far through two fights.
Yeah, the top pressure from Malott for him, I will say, seems wild. His top game looks like a real problem. If he can continuously be able to take guys down the way he did in this fight, he might get more than the submission that we saw tonight or Saturday night.
Hey, you guys are doing a great fucking job right now with this lightning round. This might be the most lightningest lightning round we've had in quite some time. Maybe since the first lightning round. Ever. Okay. Trevor Peek knocks Eric Gonzalez into next week at the very end of round number one. Went down in the lightweight division. Omar, staying with you. Go first.
It was a competitive fight, and then Gonzalez got kind of dumb and started firefighting with Peek and did not win that firefight. They tossed a coin in the air. Peek ended up getting the heads on that and put Gonzalez out. And it was, I don't know where guys started throwing hammer fists as hooks and stuff now. Yeah. And it's hard for me to even talk shit about it because that's literally what he hit him with to put him out. So
yeah,
weird though, very weird.
Cyril Gane did it when he finished Ty. Yeah, guys doing it more and more.
Mark, go.
Yeah, sometimes you hear guys described as like bar fighters, and you feel weird saying that. Like that, Trevor Peek was that guy. Like he just absolutely loads up, and Gonzalez was not the opponent to exploit that. But there are plenty of guys in the UFC who will exploit that. So we'll see how that goes. But Peak is an athlete. He's willing to bang. It seems like he's definitely a natural fighter, and that can always carry you a ways. I'm not sure that his takedown defense or at least clinch defense looks to be anything so great. But we're going to find out. And either way, gets the big debut win. That KO was rough. He put a beating on him at the end there.
Yeah, man. Okay. Jasmine Jasudavicius defeats Gabriela Fernandez by unanimous decision. Mark, take it.
I'll tell you what, Fernandez in her debut showed some really pretty striking. There's some potential there if someone can work with her and get the wrestling and the grappling up to a better point. Because that striking was legit, but Jasudavicius did a great job. She was just a dog, walked through what she had to get inside, repeatedly took her down, and on the mat it was not too competitive. So nice clear win for her.
Omar.
I believe Dominic Reyes was the one that said, or Dominic Cruz was the one that said it best, that she's eating those shots like cookies. Because that's exactly what it was like, man. She was eating big shots from Fernandez, but walking right through them. Didn't even look like it phased her. And on the ground, you could see that it almost, it was panic. It was panic from Fernandez. Like, she didn't really look like she knew what she was doing a lot of the time. And I think the more time went on when they were on the ground, I think the more panic, the more realized she was going to lose that fight. So it's great performance from Jasudavicius.
Okay, in the lightweight division, Jordan Levitt defeats Victor Martinez by TKO with some nasty knees in the clinch against the fence. 2 minutes, 27 seconds of round number 1. Omar, sticking with you. Take it.
Dog, you gotta know how to get out of the clinch. You can't just be there just taking knees like that. Like I love how he was blocking the body. Like, yeah, no, he won't hit me in the face. Like, it was a multitude of bad decisions from Victor Martinez. Just really bad. Good performance from Jordan Levitt. Bad performance from Victor Martinez. Jesus Christ.
Mark.
Jordan Levitt by KO, just like everyone figured. No. That was wild. Honestly, it was beautiful. Perfect job by him in that sequence. And he's showing some other aspects to his game. I would love to know what the odds were on a Jordan Levitt KO. I think everyone assumed he'd be finishing that thing on the mat. But good for him.
Mark, sticking with you. Ode Osborne split decision over Charles Johnson. Go.
Yeah, really thought Charles Johnson could take this matchup. He is a fighter who feels like he could be better if he was a little less flowy and stuck a little more to a game plan. Like, he's one of these guys that's very willing to just kind of move in there and talk in there, and I feel like sometimes he lets it get away from him because of that. And Osborne had a game plan that really leveraged his athleticism and his power and his ability to get in and out. And I still feel like, though Osborne maybe is not the better all-around fighter, that it didn't matter because he fought the better fight. So a nice win for him.
Omar.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think the problem for me with Charles Johnson, and I might be less lightning in this particular moment, but Charles Johnson to me looks good, man. Like, he has a lot of promise. My wife did want me to mention that she has 2 thumbs down for his haircut as a hairdresser. But he's got a lot of promise, man. He's got a lot of skill. He doesn't go first. And that, in this particular fight, was the big issue. He was letting Ode Osborne go first, tag him, not returning, not countering, trying to wait for a shot that eventually never really came. And it allowed Ode to do really what he wanted for a majority of that fight. Charles Johnson 100% has the tools to have beaten Ode Osborne in that fight. He 100% has the demeanor to beat him. Like, he wasn't scared. But he was tentative to shoot. He was tentative to find that shot. And I don't really know why. Like, he's got a lot of potential, but something there has to click. I hope he's already gotten rebooked, and we're going to go through that in the MMA sphere. So hopefully this one allows him to get into it, I guess.
Okay, lightweight division, Joe Solecki defeats Carl Deaton III. Hope I'm saying that right, by technical submission via rear naked choke in the second round. Omar, keep going.
Dude, Joe Solecki is a beast. that seemed like a real mismatch. You want to talk about somebody who was panicked? Carl Deaton was panicked. There was so many submission attempts in the first round. Carl Deaton, to his credit, was able to survive. But in that second round, man, he did not want to tap. He knew he had 10 seconds left, but he went to sleep anyway. Poor guy, man.
Mark.
Yeah, I know Deaton was a late replacement. I can't remember who Selecki was supposed to be fighting, but either way, Joe Selecki is one hell of a fucking grappler. I mean, he fought such a clean fight. The back take that led to that sub was gorgeous, and he just snatches that choke after, Deaton made him work for it a bit, but once he got it, it was in deep immediately, so a nice finish.
Yeah, man, props to Selecki, dude. Coming up 13-3 now. Okay, Mark, sticking with you. Last one, still in the lightweight division. Hope I'm saying his name right. Nurullo Aliyev defeats Rafael Alves by a majority decision. Take it.
Yeah, he's good, man. He is good. I didn't see him on Contender Series. I was hearing some people talk about him, saying that he was absolutely someone to watch. I like Alves. I always have. He's had some tough matchups in the UFC. That dude, Alves, is so quick. Great entries. He had his shot at a guillotine a couple times, which is one of his go-tos, but he couldn't get Aliyev out of there. Aliyev was able to get out of the guillotine, but he's good. He's very – I hate to use this because people like to use this. He's very Khabib-esque. He reminded me of him the way that he's not just an offensive grappler, but while you are on the ground, he is putting it on you. He's not one of these guys who will lay there, even the way Islam will kind of work and set it up. And Khabib was never like that, and that's how this dude fights. Like, he was trying to put it on you the whole time that he had control of Alves. And he lost a point for biting, which is an interesting one. But he was able to rebound it and make sure he got out of there to take the cards.
Yeah, it's interesting. He also has a similar nickname to Khabib. It's the Tajik Eagle.
Not only that, he fucking sounds just like Khabib. Did you hear the post-fight interview?
No.
I did not.
Dude, he sounds so much like him. It's wild. And they're not from the same place, obviously, but same part of the world, I guess. But,
well,
yeah.
What was once Soviet Union, Tajikistan, part of it. Omar, take us home.
The bite was weird. It seems like Alves put his fingers in Aliyev's mouth, and I think that's where Aliyev was saying that the teeth marks came from, was from him like grabbing his mouth. Still very odd. Shouldn't be in the mouth at all, to any extent.
23 years old, by the way. Let's keep that in mind.
Yeah. I do believe that Alves got stuck in the issue that I thought he was going to, where he was just going to accept being on the bottom a little more than he should have against a guy like Aliyev. And unless he got him out of there, the points were going to end up racking up for Aliyev in the end. And I think that's really what happened.
Okay, we've done it. Hey, guys. Hey. Props to you guys.
Who's better than
Two
us?
of you. What a fucking great lightning round.
Thank you.
Mark, let's put a bow on this UFC Fight Night by finding out who rose and fell in your rankings system, the Priaulx Rankings. Take it away.
All right, so it's nothing too significant. No one really had the type of win. Not no one. Most didn't have the type of win that really caused much movement. So I have 2 risers, 1 faller. And I will do the risers first from the top of the card. Brendan Allen. He was number 16 in my middleweight rankings coming into this one. I now slot him in at number 12 in the middleweight ranks, so a nice little move up for him. I'll do the flip side. The faller, Andre Muniz, had him at number 12. I've now moved him down to number 15 coming off of that loss. We'll see how he rebounds. There was a lot of hype behind this man at one time. I know I already kind of jumped on Muniz earlier in this episode, but, like, dudes were wanting to match him up with, like, the top of the top, thinking he would sub them. And we're going the other way right now, so we will see. And then the other riser, which is kind of the big one of the week, big being because he wasn't even in the UFC, Nurullo Aliyev. He debuted against a tough opponent in Rafael Alves, so he jumps a whole lot of guys. There's, like, 75 lightweights in the UFC, something like that. And he debuts in my rankings at number 42 in the lightweight division. So a nice start for him.
Shooting right up into the middle of the pack there.
Dude, real quick, Tatiana Suarez I think she might have been asked during the post-fight or during the presser afterwards whether she wanted to fight Carla or Rose or something like that. And so she said Rose, and she said if she goes against Carla Esparza again, she's going to catch a case twice. She's talking wild shit, man.
Oh, she will talk. Yeah, she is confident always.
She's also, I mean, that's another one where from a size perspective, her against Carla Esparza, that might be the worst matchup for her in the entire division by a long shot.
For sure. You could see it. I mean, obviously she was great and won pretty dominantly against Montana. But you could see it that the size
played a factor.
Was not such a factor at 125.
100%.
A large part of why she is so dominant at 115 is because she's a lot bigger than those girls. So if she can make that weight, she's going to be a problem.
But let's be real. If the difference between 125 and 115 is 1 or 2 extra rounds of having to take girls down, Tatiana Suarez is going to be a fucking problem at 115 and 125.
Oh, yeah. I agree. Dude, how about her and Blanchfield? Like, can we just do that? Can we just be like, sorry, you're not going to 115. We need you to fight her in Blanchfield.
Let them work. Let them cook, man. Let them cook. Let Blanchfield go on her journey. Let's see what happens. Tatiana Suarez is almost destined at this point for a championship. Let them cook.
Both become champs, and then we super fight it. Could be.
Let it simmer, baby. Let it crock pot. Let it roll.
Let's now go inside the MMA sphere with Omar Artola. What's up, man, in the world of MMA outside of the cages?
All right. So we have a couple of things to go over. Darren Till was removed from the UFC, the roster. If you guys are not aware, there is a Twitter bot called @UFC Roster Watch, I believe. And it is a bot that detects changes in the UFC's online roster repository. When Darren Till was removed, the bot sent out the tweet, and the MMA world lost its collective shit.
I didn't know that was a bot.
Yeah.
I thought that was a dude. It's like an automated thing?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's instant, isn't it?
A lot of APIs and a lot of, it just detects a change. So if there's a fighter that's been added, like to the roster, it'll detect it and it'll send that out. If it's removed, it'll do the same. And it has like preset things, little art and shit that they do too for it. But
what's an API? Stop saying technical words to me.
Sorry, I work in tech. I actually don't know what API stands for at the particular moment, which is why my interviews are going so well. But but it is basically something like it's kind of like using the framework of a system. So, for example, the UFC has
it's okay.
The UFC has the roster. So the dude uses the API to gather that information and translate it into Twitter.
Thank you.
Anyway, Darren Till was removed from the roster. He did make a comment on Twitter because I'm sure probably woke up with 200 texts from this happening. Because this did happen at like 8 or something last night, or 7 or 9 or something, and he's all the way in the other side of the world, so I'm sure he was out. But he says him and Dana and Hunter are still cool. He asked for his removal, and they did release him from his contract, which he appreciates. He says he's not going anywhere. He's got big plans to execute, and he'll be back. So another one that was able to, quote-unquote, ask for his release. And I'm sure, considering the circumstances with Darren Till, I don't think they really had a problem with it. So that is that. I guess we'll see what happens with Darren Till in the future, but as of right now, he is no longer a UFC fighter and is officially a free agent. Next on the list, Sergey Pavlovich is serving as a backup officially for this weekend's main event, Jones versus Gane. Let's be real, that was probably the right thing to do. It is currently Wednesday, March 1st, 11 p.m. We have a long way to go before Saturday night, man. And there's a lot of Vegas still in the air. So, John Jones doesn't like to stay home. He doesn't like to stay home and play it safe. So I'm just really concerned, man. I'm really concerned. But here we are. Knock on wood. Next on the list, Paddy Pimblett. So we talked about last week, Paddy Pimblett was matched up with Drew Dober. I'm sure some people, if you follow the sport pretty well, were probably like, holy shit, is that real? No. The answer is it is not real. Apparently, Paddy Pimblett came out and said that he still needs ankle surgery, and he's probably going to be out until minimum the end of the year. So the Drew Dober matchup that was released or rumored or whatever happened there was a bamboozle. So there's that. Let's get into some fight announcements, and we will move right along to this weekend's card because, oh baby. Luke Rockhold versus Mike Perry and Eddie Alvarez versus Chad Mendes are both going down at BKFC on April 29th. You can take a second and pause this and really revel in that moment there. That is some wild shit. Definitely not something I thought I would be hearing. Did you guys have that on your bingo card for 2023?
No, I sure didn't.
No.
Don't you love combat sports, man?
Fucking crazy. And in what world, and I texted this to you guys earlier, in what world would have Mike Perry and Luke Rockhold in the MMA world ever fought? Probably never. Probably never.
Like, would Mike Perry have ever moved up to 185 in the UFC and fought Luke Rockhold?
He would have moved up, but he probably wouldn't have fought Luke Rockhold.
Maybe. He would not have been able to fight at middleweight in the UFC.
He's fighting at 185? Yeah. I mean, he wouldn't have been great, but...
He's just too small. He's like,
he's
5'9"?
way too small. Way too small.
Yeah. Well,
I got to tell you, Luke Rockhold in BKFC sounds like one of the worst fits I have ever heard in my life. Not only do we have concerns about his chin, granted he did well against Paulo Costa, but he literally
kicker.
feels like a guy where if you told him he can't kick, he doesn't even know how to be in a striking exchange. So I'm so interested to see how this is going to look.
Apparently, he's been working with Priaulx a lot on his boxing since his retirement, and I guess even before that. But he's been really into it. BKFC seems like they're paying them all a bag, so they're all super happy. They're all on cloud nine with their situations right now.
Yeah.
So good for them, man. Listen,
I love Eddie and Mendes. I fucking love that.
Yeah. I will watch that.
I'll tell you right now, though, if we're going purely on what I've seen, Chad Mendes is going to kill Eddie Alvarez. Chad Mendes looks like Chad Mendes, somebody needs to test Chad Mendes because Chad Mendes looks ridiculous. His hand speed is absolutely stupid, and the power behind his shots at that speed is crazy. Is absolutely crazy. Like, one shot to the body will probably break somebody's ribs. He's an absolute monster right now. I don't know what they're feeding that boy, but Jesus Christ.
Yeah. And Eddie's got a lot of wear and tear, too.
And Eddie's kind of had the dad bod shit going on, dog. Like, he's a little thickums right now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I just think Chad Mendes is still a specimen right now, and Eddie Alvarez is not. So I love Eddie Alvarez, but this one is just bad. This one's bad. All right, next on the list. We're going into the MMA now. Daniel Rodriguez is out against his fight with Gunnar Nelson. He will now be facing Brian Barberena at UFC 286 on March 18th. Korean Zombie versus Ila Topuria has been targeted for April 29th in Seoul, Korea.
Why do they want Zombie to die in front of his home fans? Holy God.
I couldn't tell you how much I hate this match.
I really hate it.
I hate it.
I really
I hate everything about it. I want somebody to just not make it to that fight. One of the two, for some reason or another. It's a terrible matchup.
I really thought it was going to be Ilya and Ortega. Like, what are they going to do with Ortega now? Because isn't he almost ready to go? Who do you put him with?
I don't know, man. I don't. Honestly, man, I don't really want to watch Zombie go through any more damage at all. Personally, like that Volk one had me done. I was done after that, and Topuria of all guys, like that's a murder. That's an absolute murder. I don't know what's happening.
That's not my favorite booking in Korea. That's tough. That's tough.
And what do you think he might main event too at that? Like, is it all going to be on Zombie to get destroyed by the savage that is Topuria? It's not. I'm not happy. Next on the list, Cody Durden is fighting Charles Johnson, like we talked about, getting rebooked quick for UFC Vegas 72 on April 29th. Andre Petrosky versus Armin Petrosian has been added to UFC's 288 on May 6th. Along with that fight, Devin Clark versus Kennedy and Zichuku has also been added. I can't wait till we have to pick that fight and we figure out whether we're going to trust Devin Clark to win that fight or not.
Who is it? Clark and Zichukwu?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't feel super comfortable picking either of those guys usually.
That's what I mean. But this is now the second fight where this has happened.
Yeah.
And I wonder which Devin Clark is going to show up for this fight. Next on the list, Cody Stamann versus Douglas Silva de Andrade.
Ooh, I like that.
To the UFC's May 13th event. And last on the list, Abdul Razak Al Hassan versus Bruno Ferreira has been added to UFC's May 20th event. And that, gentlemen, is all we have. Let's get to UFC 285, baby. Let's do it.
Yes, sir. Okay. Let's do this.
I'm ready.
Let's
look to the future, gentlemen.
Baby.
The very near future. This coming weekend, Saturday, March 4th, going down in Las Vegas at the T-Mobile Arena is UFC 285, Jones versus Gane. The card will be headlined by the returning John Bones Jones, taking on Cyril Gane for the now vacant UFC heavyweight title, after it has been vacated by the champion, Francis Ngannou, when he left UFC during contract disputes, long story short. And it's a pretty stacked card, guys. As far as pay-per-views go, this is
it's our first time being able to do the full card preview this year, right? Because we certainly didn't do it for that Volt card.
Yeah. So this card is going to have early prelims, and a main card. So let us first go through the early prelims going down on ESPN Plus and UFC Fight Pass. Let us begin. First fight of the evening, opening up the whole card in the lightweight division. We have from Argentina, Esteban. I hope I say this name right. Ribovics. Do you know? Anybody know?
I don't know.
I know that he just won on the Contender Series back in August, and he is an undefeated 26-year-old prospect out of Argentina, 11-0. All 11 fights finishes, 6 knockouts, 6 submissions. And he will be standing across a PFL veteran in Loik Radzhabov. The Jaguar Paw is his nickname, from Tajikistan. He is making his UFC debut. Mark, let me start with you. Give us your quick pick for Loik Radzhabov versus Esteban Ribovics.
All right. Radzhabov's the favorite, minus 270. Ribovics is plus 220. Gilbert Burns, I'm sure, is happy. He was very upset when Radzhabov got removed from the Ultimate Fighter, but he lands instead on UFC 285, so that's a pretty good deal. We know Loik, PFL vet. He's beaten Alex Martinez. He's beaten Chris Wade, who is actually legit. He drew with Islam Mamedov, so he's solid. I expect him to win this one. Ribovics, as you said, is a finisher, but Radzhabov is nothing if not durable, and I expect him to get this done. I will say it's not a finish with him coming in on short notice, but I will take Radzhabov UD.
Omar.
Man, I'm about to make a stupid-ass pick, but here it goes. I'm going to take the homeboy from Argentina. I'm going to take the underdog here. I think considering that Loik has never been finished, and this boy has apparently never gotten into a fight he wasn't able to finish, if I'm going to pick him to win, I'm going to pick him to be the first guy to finish this PFL vet. I think it'll be a crazy coming out party for him. I think it'll be a nice highlight reel for him, and I think he's going to catch him. I'm going to go with a KO, round 1. Let's go.
Man, I really don't. I have no place to pick this fight. I'm in no position to pick this fight because I really don't know much about Esteban. But what the heck? Why not go with the undefeated prospect who has finished all 11 of his opponents, taking on the vet? I'll side with Omar, and I'll say that that he gets it done, handing Loik his first TKO loss of his career.
Man, we're either going to look real smart or real dumb next week. One or the other.
It's the first fight on the card. No one will remember.
It's going to come and go very quickly. Okay. Moving up, fight number 2, bantamweights. We have Damon Blackshear taking on Farid Basharat. Blackshear 12-4, the 28-year-old out of North Carolina, coming off of a draw with Youssef Zalal. That was his UFC debut, so he's still looking to get his first win in the UFC. Farid Basharat just won on Contender Series. He's 9-0 prospect, 25 years old, out of London, England. Omar, give us your quick pick.
I think in this particular matchup, I'm going to go with a guy who wins on the ground, wins handedly in Farid Basharat. I think Blackshear has shown vulnerabilities on the ground. I think a lot of them have been to high-intensity guys, but I think Basharat's jiu-jitsu should be good enough to come away with a submission victory, round 2.
Mark.
So Basharat's a big favorite in his debut, minus 460. Blackshear is plus 350.
Jesus.
I like Damon Blackshear. He's been around. He's fought some relevant guys in some different promotions. And after his debut draw with Youssef Zalal, I was kind of thinking in my head, like, I'm going to pick this dude in his next fight. But then they put him in there against a Basharat, and I fucking love Javid Basharat. So if Farid is anything like Javid, I'm going to have to believe in the talent here. And from what you read about the man and the clips you see, he looks to be. So I will say Farid Basharat. Blackshear has never been finished, so I'll say UD.
Once again, I'm sorry, folks. Don't bet your money based off my picks, because I also don't know Basharat very well. But once again, I'm going to roll with the undefeated guy who has subbed more than half of his opponents. I'll say
Let's
that
go.
he gets it done by submission. Once again, handing Blackshear his first finished loss of his career. Okay, fight number 3, strawweights, the ladies here. We have Jessica Penne taking on Tabatha Ricci. Jessica Penne has been on the scene for a minute. She is the 40-year-old out of Huntington Beach, California, 14-6 as a pro, 8 subs on record, looking to get back in the win column after a loss to Emily Ducote, taking on the rising prospect Tabatha Ricci, the baby shark herself, out of São Paulo, Brazil. She's coming off back-to-back wins over Maria Oliveira and Poliana Viana. A lot of Brazil there. Mark, start us off. Give us your quick pick.
So Baby Shark is the favorite. She's minus 300. Jessica Penne is plus 240. Penne certainly is going to have the size advantage. She's 4 inches taller. She's going to have a 5-inch reach. She is, as you said, also a 40-year-old woman fighting a 28-year-old on the come-up. So that's a factor. I do think it's closer than the odds suggest. I think if we get some grappling exchanges, that could be really interesting. Kind of the wrestling strength of Ricci against the jiu-jitsu of Penne. If it's striking, I do wonder if Ricci is too small to like land well, because she's honestly really, really small. So, and also I want to say that Penne beat Lupi Godinez a couple years back, and I kind of feel like Ricci is really similar to Lupi Godinez. So there's a lot of things that are like pushing me to say go with the underdog in Penne, but I just keep coming back to the fact that she's 40, and I feel like it's probably starting to go the other way for her. So I'm just going to go with the youth and the power and strength of Ricci and say that maybe she can kind of toss Penne around a little bit. So Ricci UD.
Omar.
Yeah. I like Ricci striking. I think the one thing that they're going to differ in when it comes to the striking is Ricci likes to put a lot of things together. She likes to use a lot of combos. Penne might have a shot here and there. I worry about more if she's able to get her to the ground, what Penne might be able to do. But striking, I think Ricci will be able to come inside, and I think she'll be able to close the distance. I don't think Penne's ever really been supremely elite when it came to the distance management using her length and her reach. So I'm gonna go with Tabatha Ricci. I think she's gonna have a lot more moments in this fight. Wouldn't be surprised if Penne's able to scratch a round out in this 3-round fight. But I'm gonna go with Ricci by unanimous decision.
Honestly, this is a tricky fight to pick, but hey, we're still on the early prelims, so we shouldn't, labor over this too much. I'll play the opposite here for the attributes. I don't know why I'm picking a 40-year-old fighter, but for the attributes alone, I think Penne, for her size and her jiu-jitsu prowess, is going to negate a lot of Tabatha Ricci, and I'm going to say that she gets it done by unanimous decision, giving Ricci a little heat check in her early career. Okay, moving on to the bantamweights here on the men's side. Leo Martinez, Mana Boy, taking on Cameron Simon. Martinez out of Houston, Texas, the 26-year-old he is, 10-3 as a professional with 8 knockouts on his record. He himself has never been knocked out. He's coming off of a win over Brandon Davis back in October by split decision. Cameron Simon, the 22-year-old undefeated prospect out of Pretoria, South Africa. That is a hard accent to do. You ever try to do South African? He is 7-0. Once again, bears repeating, 22-year-old, 7-0 prospect. 5 knockouts, 1 sub on his record. Never been defeated, never been finished. Omar, start us off. Oh, by the way, it's his second fight in the UFC. He won a Contender Series and then won his UFC debut, both by knockout.
Yeah, dude, and he's good, man. He's definitely good. He's got promise, and the real issue for me is more, I think, from the Leo Mana side, right? Like Mana Martinez, I wanted to like him when he first came in. He had a story fighting for his coach that recently passed away and the whole bit, and showed a lot of heart in his fights, 100%. But 3 fights into the UFC, and I haven't really seen a lot of vast improvement in his game and his approach. And I don't think, I could be wrong, but I don't think this is the fight where he's going to make that leap or that jump. And I think Cameron is probably bound to rack up another KO here. To Mana's credit, he hasn't been finished in the UFC. I don't know if he's been finished at all, actually. He's been subbed once. But I can tell you right now that Cameron is a person with hands that you definitely don't want landing clean. But I think that's what happens in this fight. So I'm going to go with KO, round 1 for Cameron.
Mark, give it to us.
Yeah, Cameron's almost 3-1 favorite. He's minus 290. Mana is plus 240. Mana will be a bit bigger. He's 2 inches taller, 3.5-inch reach, but I think Simon is a real prospect. I think that he's just the cleaner fighter here. Mana is sometimes more trying to brawl, and I just don't think I forget if it might be Simon. I forget how he says it. It's bothering me that I can't remember. But
I watched the intros of the last fight, and they were all saying Simon.
Oh, they were? Okay. So with that said, yeah, I don't think Simon allows the brawl. I think he's just too clean. I think he could honestly finish this striking or on the mat. If it ever was competitive in the striking, I think he could just take it down. So, yeah, I'm on him by some type of finish. For the sake of the pick, I will say it's a sub.
Woo. Yeah, I like Simon as well. See, I just did it, Simon. I think there's something about him. I think we're going to be saying that this guy's could be special before the end of the year. Who knows what his record might be? It's still only March 1st right now. He could be close to 10-0 maybe by the end of this calendar year in the UFC. Still be 22. He turns 23 in December. So, Jesus. He was born in the year 2000. Holy shit, I'm old. Having one of those senior moments. Yeah, I'll take Simon by TKO round 2. Moving on. Yet another. There are so many undefeated guys putting their O on the line in
Interesting.
this pay-per-view. Yet another one. Young prospect Ian the Future Gary taking on Keenan Song. So Ian Gary, the 25-year-old 10-0 fighter out of Dublin, Ireland. Came onto the UFC scene. They seem to be really hyping him up whenever he's on a card. He's a new fresh face out of Dublin. He is the opposite of Conor McGregor. He is like the sweetest kid you've ever seen. And let's see. Of his 10 wins, 5 have come by way of knockout. 1 submission added to that. He's taking on Keenan, the Assassin Song, out of China, coming off of a loss against Max Griffin back in March. His record stands at 19-6. Mark, start us off. Give us your quick pick. Gary versus Song.
All right, Gary is minus 775, and Song is plus 525, which illustrates why this is a dumb fucking fight. And I'm not saying Ian Gary can't lose, because it's not like Ian Gary is some can't-miss killer necessarily, but we should just be past this. He has beat better guys than this already. I don't know why we are not past this point. And I think he passes this test and does it in style. He's 3 inches taller. He's going to have a 2.5-inch reach. I think he puts that to use. I don't think this is much different than what we've seen from Ian Gary, but I think it's maybe even a little bit easier. It certainly should be easier than his last opponent in Gabe Green. I think that he finishes Song. I think Song's aggression ends up getting him in trouble. I just think Gary's timing and his ability to pick his shots is really high level, and I think he puts Song down. So I will say round 2 KO for Ian Gary.
Omar.
Yeah, I wonder if what they're trying to do is maybe give Gary a chance to style on somebody, get some highlights
Could
or
be.
something. Because this does seem like a very random fight. I mean, the Keenan Song has fought 2, 4, 6 guys in the UFC, has beaten a few of these guys. He's beaten 4 of them.
He's 4-2, but all his wins are against nobodies.
Guys who have literally all never gotten a win in the UFC. There's one guy who has 1 win in the UFC. They've all either lost 3 or more in the UFC. So literally against guys who have never even made it, really. So it doesn't really hold any weight, and it's very odd. And then obviously his 2 losses are to guys with names, Max Griffin and Alex Morono. Ian Gary should win this fight. It's going to be very, very disconcerting if he doesn't win this fight. I hope he does. I hope he does style on him. I hope we get to a point where we're like, okay, now he's ready for the actual real next step from here. So I'm going to go with Ian Gary. I also am going to go with KO. But I do think he likes to take his time, and he likes to play with his food. I'm going to go with the round 3.
Yeah, man, it runs the risk of Ian Gary losing this fight, which would be absolutely devastating for
And
his...
a waste, an absolute
It's
waste.
how I felt. It's how I felt about the Tyson Pedro fight when I was like, "Why are we here right now?" And that's how this feels.
because it's still, it's still a fight, and
Yeah.
Keenan Song has 19 wins on his record, so he's not literally a paper bag, man. But you got to take Gary in this spot. I mean, the odds reflect that. So I'll take Gary, and just for some variety, I'll say round 1 knockout.
We've got every round
Let's
covered.
go, Ian Gary. Okay. Jumping up now into the prelims, UFC 285. Here we go in the middleweight division. Julian Marquez taking on Marc-Andre Barrio. Marquez, the Cuban Missile Crisis. What a nickname. Jesus. 32-year-old out of Missouri. He is, Kansas City, Missouri, Mark. Kansas City Mo.
Yeah, there you go.
He's 9-3 as a pro. Looking to get back in the win column after a loss to Gregory Hobocop Rodriguez back in June. Across the cage will be Marc-Andre Barrio, Power Bar, out of Quebec, 33 years old, 14-6 as a pro, 1 no contest. Also looking to get back in the win column after a loss this past September to Anthony Hernandez. That's Fluffy, right? That's Fluffy Hernandez?
Yep.
Who's the other Hernandez I get confused with? Alexander.
Alexander?
Hernandez.
Yeah, it's the A. Obviously very different guys, but
Yeah.
I see the A and then Hernandez. I'm like, which guy is this?
One can fight for an hour, and one sometimes can't go past 5 minutes.
It's true. Mark, sticking with you, start us off. Marc-Andre Barriault versus Marquez.
So this is a close fight.
Shit.
I think that this actually might be the fight that I struggled the most with on the whole card in terms of who I thought would win. Odds are pretty tight. Barriault is the favorite, -155. Marquez is the dog at +125. They're basically the same size. What I find interesting here is that I feel like Barriault is always winning, like, moments in fights always winning, like, over periods in fights until he fucks something up and it goes south. And I feel like Julian Marquez is always losing fights until he pulls some shit out and gets a head kick or a sub or something. So it's like they're made to see who breaks through here. I do wonder about the pace. Barriault keeps a really high pace, and I wonder if Marquez can deal with that for all 15 without slipping. And I wonder if that kind of saps him of his ability for a big moment because of how much he has to work as the fight is going on. But I'm not sold on either guy, but I'm more so not sold on Barriault, I think, thus far in his run. And I just see Marquez as the more dangerous guy who could find something. So I will say that he ends up at least hurting Barriault a couple times and takes the cards because of it.
Okay, Omar, your turn.
Yeah, I definitely think Marquez is going to be the one who comes out on top. I do think this is one of those fights that's going to be very sloppy. You probably get one really solid round out of them from a technical standpoint. I don't think Julian Marquez is, particularly technical to begin with. But I think you'll see the most technique out of them in the first round. Once they start getting wild and they start throwing and landing and all kinds of stuff by the second and third round, I think we'll start to see them slow down. And I think it'll end up getting really sloppy. And in those situations, I trust Marquez a little bit more. He seems to thrive in the sloppiness, in the chaos. So I'm going to go with Marquez by unanimous decision.
A tricky fight to pick, in my opinion. Evenly matched in certain ways. Similar age, similar size. I'm going to go with the power edge here. Marc-Andre Barriault with the 9 knockouts on his record. I'll say that he gets him out of there. I'm going to say there's going to be fireworks in round 1, and I'll say that he gets a TKO towards the end of the first round. All right, let's move on.
There's no result of that fight that would surprise me, really.
Sure. Yeah.
Barriault sub, I guess. But every result other than that is like, yeah, I could see it.
Flyweight fight, fun one. Viviane Araújo versus Amanda Ribas. This is a fan favorite fight right here. Vivi Araújo, this is a Brazil-on-Brazil fight. So Araújo out of Brazil. She is the 36-year-old, 11-4 as a pro, coming off of a loss against Alexa Grasso, who is also appearing on this card tonight. That loss was back in October. She will be standing across from Amanda Ribas, the 29-year-old out of Brazil, who is 10-3 as a professional, 2 knockouts, 4 subs on her record. Also coming off of a loss and looking to get back in the win column, suffering a loss against Caitlin Chookagian by a split decision back in May of 2022. Omar, start us off this time. Give us your pick and your take of Ribas versus Araújo.
So for me, this one was the one that was tough for me to pick. Thinking about the two of them, they both bring something to the table when it comes to the threat in the fight. Amanda Ribas is a very technical fighter, a lot of movement, a lot of volume, a lot of sharp punches. And Araújo is a tank. She's a panzer. That woman will literally throw bombs. She can definitely hurt Amanda Ribas for sure, but she has to land. And I think that's where Amanda Ribas may particularly excel, is in the movement, in the slipping, in the dodging, in the countering, returning on shots that she's able to dodge. I think her boxing and her Muay Thai is just a little bit sharper. Araujo gives me a lot of Jessica Andrade vibes, right? Where you're throwing big wild hooks from the hip. We're not really super into technique. We're just trying to smash this girl's face into the ground. And I think with girls, women who can take advantage of their movement, of the movement of the fight, and set a pace, I think that she's going to be the one that comes out on top. So I'm going to go with Amanda Ribas by unanimous decision. I think Araujo is too tough to be finished in this particular instant. But I do think that that Ribas comes out on top.
How'd you take a decision?
Decision, unanimous.
Okay. Mark, go ahead.
Okay, this is the tightest fight on the card, odds-wise. Amanda Ribas is minus 125, and Viviane Araujo is plus 105. Small size advantages for Araujo, 2 inches of reach, 1 inch of height. The power and strength of Araujo concerns me a bit, especially because most of where we've seen Ribas is at 115, so you already got to factor in she's having her second fight at 125 now. Her first one was against Chookagian. Not exactly known for the strength and power, whereas Araujo is, so it's kind of like a double step up for Ribas, I would say here. But I don't pick against Amanda Ribas unless she is fighting the elite. I think she is perennially underrated. I think she has a lot of talent. I think she is getting more and more comfortable standing in every fight. I think she's starting to get dangerous standing. I think her jits is still top shelf. There's going to be scrambles here. Araujo is hard to hold down. She can be a beast at times, but I just think Ribas' jiu-jitsu is so good technique-wise that she can lean on it, and I will take her to win a decision.
The odds reflect the trickiness of picking this fight. You have the technical prowess of Ribas and the strength and power of Araujo. But Araujo's old, like me. She's actually like born like a month right after me. And so that also gives me some pause because she's bigger, but she's also a bit older, and she's getting a little long in the tooth. Ribas isn't even 30 yet, and she is the much more technical fighter, which I love about her, and I'm also a big fan of hers. I'm going to go with her in this fight, not with a ton of confidence, because if Araujo dings her and gets her in trouble, I would not be surprised. But I will roll with Ribas. I think that she's going to stay safe throughout this fight, and she's going to use her skills to roll to a unanimous decision victory. It's going to be a don't miss that fight kind of a fight.
Sorry, Mike, I had a text come through. I glanced at. I heard all that except who you picked at the end. Who'd you say by decision?
Ribas.
Ribas, okay.
Okay, let's move on to the middleweight division. Derek Brunson taking on Dricus du Plessis. This is an interesting fight as well, man. You have the veteran in Brunson taking on the rising du Plessis. So here we go. Brunson, the 39-year-old out of Wilmington, North Carolina, 23-8 as a professional with 12 knockouts, 4 subs added to that. He was on a 5-fight win streak up until 2021, until Jared Cannonier snapped that win streak with a devastating knockout. Also, that was a bit of a weird performance from Derek Brunson. Standing across from him will be Dricus du Plessis. Still Knox is the nickname, out of South Africa. He is 18-2 as a pro. Did I mention he's 29 years old? And he is riding a 6-fight win streak. 4-0 in the UFC so far. So undefeated in the UFC. And the man is on a tear. Most recently, he defeated Darren Till by submission via face crank. Very frustrating performance from Darren Till, as we touched on back in December, and now he is out of the UFC. But that's that. Now, du Plessis gets to move on and face the formidable and awkward Derek Brunson. So, Omar, why don't you start us off this time?
It's a very interesting fight, I think stylistically, too, because Derek Brunson tends tends to rely on his wrestling to some extent, especially when his hands are not working. And Dricus du Plessis likes to take things to the ground. I think he feels more comfortable down there in general. I don't think he's afraid to strike, but I do think that that's something that he prefers to do. And I don't know if Derek Brunson's going to be the one to get away with that. Derek Brunson does have really good takedown defense. He's not the best at getting back up once you actually get him on his back, but he's not terribly easy to get down in the first place. And so I wonder how much investment du Plessis is going to play into the takedown. How much striking is going to be involved? Is Brunson going to try to take down du Plessis? I think it's all very, very interesting from a stylistic standpoint. With all that being said, I'm going to go with Derek Brunson here. I don't normally, I think, ever pick Derek Brunson. But I'm going to go with Derek Brunson here. I think his experience in the octagon, his variety of looks that he's had in the octagon, I don't think Dricus du Plessis necessarily presents anything terribly new. And I think if Brunson focuses, properly dyes his hair for Super Saiyan mode, I think he can get it done. So I'm going to go with Brunson by unanimous decision.
Mark.
Yeah, this is a weird fight, man. It's hard to read. It certainly feels like it should be a main card fight. It feels like a big deal fight. I mean, these are high level middleweights here. Okay, so I'll give you the lines. Dricus is minus 240 as the favorite, which is wider than I ever expected it to be. Yeah, Brunson is plus 190 dog.
Wow.
They are basically the same size, 1 inch each for Brunson. I'm having a hard. There's a lot of things going through my mind about this fight. I wanted to pick Brunson out of the gate, just because I feel like there is a ceiling on Dricus's game, and I was like, maybe we're at that level now where he gets exposed. But then the more I thought about it, I kind of started thinking about a lot of different things. I thought about the fact that Brunson sometimes has these lapses in there in moments of the fight where he gets a little lazy. And Dricus is on for all 15 minutes. Doesn't matter how tired he is. The dude is coming. He goes. So that's a concern. He's also not easy to deter. And sometimes I feel like Brunson doesn't do as well when he can't have a guy backing up or he can't implement the wrestling with as much efficiency as he wants to. And that when someone's kind of in his face and not wilting the way he wants him to wilt, that Brunson can panic a little bit and get even more sloppy. Both of these guys are sloppy strikers, which is going to be interesting to see too. Dricus has a really nice guillotine. I could see that being in play. I think his grappling is something that he showed a lot pre-UFC. We haven't seen a ton of it yet in the UFC. But with Brunson shooting, I could see Dricus snatching up a guillotine. There's angles. I feel like if you're going to pick Brunson, what it comes down to is, do you trust Brunson to out-wrestle du Plessis for 15 minutes? And if you don't, I feel like it's a little hard to pick him. With that said, like I was just saying, they can both be sloppy. As much as Dricus is coming for you, he'll swing wildly sometimes, and Brunson carries power too, so he could absolutely catch Dricus in one of these exchanges. It's one of these fights where I could see it being super close for 15 minutes, or I could see one guy kind of dust the other guy and make you look stupid if you pick the other way. So, I don't know. It's a hard one. I'm going to go Dricus just by will and not stopping this. That's kind of where I'm landing in having to pick a winner here.
It's a good take.
I could even see him tap Brunson. I really could.
I'm
going to say taps Brunson. Round 3, guillotine.
Oh.
I think that's a great pick.
I thought you were saying by strikes. I was like, Jesus.
No.
Yeah, I'm on the one hand, I'm surprised that the odds are that far. There's going to be a lot of money on Brunson because of that, and that's the whole point, I guess. I'm not a betting man, so I don't understand it that well. But that performance that Derek Brunson turned in against Jared Cannonier made me lose quite a bit of confidence in him going forward. That was such a fucking weird performance. And he seemed to just gas so terribly. I wonder if part of it was that he was so worried about Cannonier's power. That, to your point, Mark, which I totally agree with, that when Cannonier wasn't going away and Brunson wasn't having his way and he wasn't finding any kind of finish or anything close to it, he kind of just, I don't want to say he gave up. The guy's a goddamn UFC fighter, but he panicked, he gassed, his motor just completely melted out of his body. And that's, I think, is going to happen against Duplessis, because Duplessis doesn't have the best gas tank in MMA, man. He's a big guy from middleweight. He carries a lot of muscle. Against Till, I thought that Duplessis looked tired and sloppy at times. But to echo you, Mark, again, Duplessis can look tired, but he still has this sort of like unbending spirit, this unbreakable spirit. So yeah, I'll go Duplessis. I'll say he he gets a TKO round 2.
Wow. Yeah.
Did we all
pick
Duplessis?
Fight.
No, did you pick Brunson, Omar?
I
Omar's
picked
on Brunson.
You okay. Yeah, that was fucking weird.
Yeah, they're not going to get much easier as we go here.
No, they're
here we
really
go.
not.
Okay, bantamweights. Cody Garbrandt taking on Trevin Jones. Cody Garbrandt. Cody No Love. A 31-year-old out of Ohio. He's 12-5 now as a professional. That's a crazy record to say for a guy who was a former champion.
Yeah.
Was he like 7-1 when he won the belt?
It was something small like that.
I literally just pulled them up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11-0 when he took the belt.
Wow.
Like that win made him 11-0.
Wow.
And then he's lost 5. And then he's lost 5 out of 6.
He's lost 5 of his 6.
The real crazy shit is that was that was probably the easiest fight he had, was against Dominic Cruz.
He looked amazing,
Dude.
He looked great.
It
He's
was one of
styled
the most like coronation type title fights I can remember, which is what makes it so funny. Like, it was like, oh my God, I just watched the guy who's going to be the champion for an era, and then he fucking basically never won another fight. Like,
Yeah,
It's wild.
crazy.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. He's back again in the octagon this Saturday. Cody No Love, of his 12 victories in the octagon, 10 have come by way of knockout. He will be standing across Trevin Jones, 5-star, out of Guam, the 32-year-old. 13-9 with 1 no contest, 3 knockouts, 4 submissions. He is very much looking to get back in the win column, coming off of a 3-fight losing streak, most recently losing a unanimous decision against Raoni Barcelos. Mark, start us off here. Give us your take. Cody No Love, is this going to be the beginning of a new run for Garbrandt, or is Trevin Jones going to best the former champ?
It's another tough one. I mean, picking Cody Garbrandt fights at this point in time are just throwing a dart. Like, there's not even so much analysis that even makes sense to go through. It's just whether you think his chin is going to hold up. He is the favorite here, interestingly. He is minus 175. Trevin Jones is plus 140. Cody will be 1 inch taller, but as we see a lot from him, he's going to be at a 4.5-inch reach disadvantage, which is not a great sign for him, I would say. It's another tough one, man. Trevin Jones, his record is only 13-9, which is not thrilling. He has lost 3 in a row, but if you look at it, the 3 that he has lost recently are Said Yakub Kakramanov, who recently got cut, which is a joke because he's so good, Javid Basharat, who's great, and Raoni Barcelos, who's great. Before that, this is a dude in Trevin Jones who knocked out Mario Bautista and who knocked out Timur Valiev, who are both very good themselves. So, like, he is a guy who has proven his KO power, and now he's across from a dude who's getting KO'd all the time. So, it's kind of hard for me to not go Trevin Jones here. one of these days, does Cody bounce back and get it done, and we're all happy to see it, and maybe he gets back on the train? Yeah, it could absolutely happen. But Trevin is an athlete. He can move with Cody. Maybe he won't be as fast, but I think he's fast enough. He's going to have the reach, and he has the power to do it. So I'll go Trevin Jones by knockout. Round 2.
Woo. Omar.
I like it. I like it a lot. I think Cody Garbrandt has been working. I can't imagine that this dude has not been in the octagon and hasn't been doing the work in the gym. I know he's a dad now, or at least sometime in the last couple of years or whatever the hell. I don't know if he's got 2 kids now or if he's just got the one that's actually starting to grow now. I'm not really sure. I just know that he's now Dad Garbrandt. And we've had the discussion here before. Usually when guys have a kid, sometimes things change. Priorities change. He's not in the back yelling burger with the boys anymore. Hanging with the boys. So maybe Garbrandt has turned a corner here. Maybe he's finally put all his skills in the right spot. I know he's been out for a while, but I don't know if I'm ready, and I know Mark has felt like this about other people. I don't know if I'm ready to be in the world where Cody Garbrandt loses to a Trevin Jones. On short notice, no less. Relatively short notice, because this is supposed to be Julio Arce. So I'm going to go with Cody Garbrandt here, and I'm going to go with KO round 2.
Yeah, to your point, just real quick before you go, Mike, his losses are TJ, Pedro Munoz, Rob Font, and Kai Kara-France. So, like, if he loses this one, it will absolutely be the one where it's like, oh, fuck, Cody Garbrandt. Yeah. Like, what happened?
Yeah.
This is, again, another one, though, where I'm also interested in the performance itself. Like, are we not as good as we once were? Did you get clipped? Like, I guess there's a lot of questions to be answered. He's been out for a long time.
For a guy who styled on Dominic Cruz so badly. Yeah, I mean, look, I've lost all confidence in picking Garbrandt at this point. I really have.
Yikes.
And other than the Asuncao knockout. Yeah, it's not that I'm picking Trevor Jones. I'm just picking against Cody Garbrandt. I hate to say it. I hate to sound mean. Yeah, I'll take Trevor Jones round 1 knockout. I think it's going to happen towards the end of round 1.
God damn.
It's just going to happen. I think it's just going to happen. And question, not Omar, because Omar picked Cody, but for Mark. Cody loses. Does he retire? Or does he go, or does he leave the UFC?
I don't think he retires. It wouldn't shock me if the UFC says that's going to be it. Wow. It seems wild, but like 6 out of 7 is a lot of losing.
Yeah. And that Rafael Sanson one, that was as Hail Mary as they get, because that motherfucker telegraphed that one for everybody to see everywhere. And Assunção was like, no, you're good. Go ahead. Hit me. It was weird.
Yeah. I do think this is ending in a knockout. I think that's the safest bet.
I also agree there. I do agree there.
Okay, moving on.
I think I picked decision, but
another interesting one. Another young, undefeated prospect. Bo Nickel. Are we on the main card yet?
We are. This is it. Main card opener, Bo Nickel, baby. Opening a pay-per-view in his debut.
The one and only. Taking on Jamie Pickett. So Bo Nickel of Dana White's Contender Series fame. He is the 27-year-old undefeated 3-0 prospect out of College State, Pennsylvania. Or, excuse me, State College, Pennsylvania. Yeah, he's a former collegiate wrestler who was a phenom in wrestling, and now he's a 6'1" middleweight who is just cutting through dudes like a hot knife through butter. He won on Contender Series. People wanted him to get called up. They didn't. And then he won again on Contender Series, once again in dominant fashion. And now he is here, taking on Jamie Pickett, the Night Wolf, the 34-year-old out of Greenville, North Carolina. He is 13-8 as a professional with 8 knockouts on his record. And he's looking to get back in the win column against Bo Nickel because he's coming off back-to-back losses against Kyle Dawkins and Dennis Tululian. Omar, start us off. Give us your assessment. Will Bo Nickel continue to rise over the veteran Pickett?
So interesting. I just realized that Mark sent all the rankings to us a little while ago, and Pickett at number 53. I don't know when that happened, but there we are.
My man is 2-4.
Yeah, no, it's not great. I'm looking at his resume now. It's not great, man.
Got beat by some shaky fighters.
And he beat some fighters that don't really have any value behind them. So, yeah, I get it. With all that being said, man, Bo Nickel has a lot of promise. His performances, I think, have been quite exceptional as well. It'll be interesting to see him step onto the main stage. I can see why they gave... I mean, this man has significantly more experience inside of the octagon, for sure. In MMA in general, for sure. I don't know how much it's going to play into it, though. I do wonder about the crowd. This is the first time that I think Bo Nickel is going to be in front of a sold-out arena, there to see John Jones, main card. People are actually asses in seats by that point. So there's a lot of factors here that I think will be interesting to see how Bo Nickel reacts to them. I think he rises to the occasion. I think he seems like the kind of guy that is waiting for an opportunity to break out. And I think he'll be able to do it against Jamie Pickett. I don't see Jamie Pickett, other than the experience, really presenting a ton of issues for Bo Nickel, at least not on paper. So I'm going to go with Bo Nickel by submission, round 2.
Okay.
So, if you are listening and you happen to not know Bo Nickel, he is one of the most decorated collegiate wrestlers of a generation. He was the silver medalist in the NCAA championships as a freshman, and then won gold as a sophomore, a junior, and a senior. And in his senior season, also won gold in the U.S. National Championships and in the Under-23 World Championships. The dude is incredible when it comes to the wrestling. He then, on Dana White's Contender Series, showed off some knockout power as well, and is probably one of the most can't-miss prospects to enter MMA in quite some time, which is reflected in the odds here, considering he is minus 1,700. Jamie Pickett is plus 900.
Oh, my God.
I do think that Bo Nickel is that good, that he deserves that. I will be shocked if he does not at least reach top 10 status as a UFC middleweight, if not significantly higher than that. As far as the matchup goes, Pickett is 1 inch taller. He's going to have a 4-inch reach advantage. As you guys alluded to, he is the more experienced fighter. I don't think it matters. I think that he gets taken down fairly quickly. Maybe he gets up once, probably not. And I think he's tapping in round 1. So I will say Bo Nickel, round 1 submission.
Okay, Omar.
I will add, though, that I feel like
my
I see Jamie Pickett doing a lot of defending in the first round, but I think he'll have enough gas to get through it. By the time the second round starts, I think Jamie Pickett's going to be mouth open, trying to get every bit of oxygen he can, and that, I think, is when that submission comes.
I think Jamie Pickett is the sacrificial lamb and is very good matchmaking if your intention is to have Bo Nickel get over on somebody who is a veteran, who is has a good physique, a good look. It's going to be an impressive win in that sense, but doesn't have the skills to match up with Bo Nickel. And I agree. I think Bo Nickel is going to get him out of there in round 1. I'll say midway through round 1. Bo Nickel is having his hand raised I will say another submission victory for Bo Nickel. I'll say probably a rear naked choke or arm triangle or something.
I will say Bo Nickel talks a lot, man, and it'll be interesting to see if his performance is dominant here against Pickett. How far up do you shoot him? Like, just based on shit talking alone and his performances, you might be able to skyrocket him.
He talks shit about Adesanya and Pereira.
I was going to say, he's been talking about Chimaev from day one. My man shoots for the stars. Like, he literally is like, yeah, it's inevitable. I'm going to be fighting Chimaev. Like, it's very, like...
And I got to be honest, man, there's a lot of guys you could kind of tell are saying it because they're being asked and this, that, and the other. Bo Nickel wholeheartedly believes he will run through these guys. Yeah. Whether that's true or not is not even the point. Bo Nickel believes it to be true. That's a scary motherfucker.
I don't think we're gonna learn so much about what his ceiling is until he is across from a guy who has the chance to stop some takedowns and force striking exchanges.
Sure.
And Jamie Pickett's not that guy.
Yeah.
Man, him versus Chimaev at 185 pounds. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Just the wrestling.
I was like, that's somebody who could stop a takedown.
Yeah.
And I'm never one to be super excited about a wrestler's delight, but in that case, it would be.
Imagine Bo Nickel just ankle picks Chimaev.
Dude.
Okay, moving on to the lightweight division. A very exciting fight for MMA purists all around. Mateusz Gamrot versus Jalen Turner. Okay, Mateusz. Is it Mateusz?
Yep.
The Gamer, Gamrot, a 32-year-old out of Poland, 21-2 as a pro, 1 no contest, 7 knockouts, 5 subs. He is coming off of a UD loss to Beneil Dariush back in October. Looking to hop right back into the win column against Jalen Turner, the Tarantula, out of San Bernardino, California. He is 27 years old and 13-5 as a pro with 9 knockouts on his record, and he is sailing on a 5-fight win streak coming into this weekend. Omar, start us off once again.
So just as a reminder that Mateusz Gamrot is a relatively short notice replacement for Dan Hooker. Hooker was supposed to be taking this spot here, and I believe he got injured. Either way, this is still a great fight, for sure. Jalen Turner is a monster, man. I've said it for quite some time now that Jalen Turner is that dude. I think Jamie Malarkey was the one where I think you guys possibly had picked Jamie Malarkey. I can't remember, but Jalen Turner smoked him too, man. Jalen Turner is a real good prospect in that division. I think he's right where he needs to be. I think this fight is going to be one of those ones that's going to be very high paced. Mateusz Gamrot loves to push a high pace. Beneil Dariush was willing to play a lot more of Gamrot's game in the rolling and the scrambles and all that other kind of stuff. And I think Dariush was just better than him. Turner, I think at this point, Jalen has a lot of ability to stop takedowns because of his length and his size. He has a lot of ability to reverse things because he is a very smart fighter. But I wonder if he can keep up the pace. He hasn't shown any reason for me to believe otherwise, if we're being wholly honest. But Mateusz Gamrot has a hell of a pace. I'm going to stick with Jalen Turner here. I do think that he comes out on top. I think he sleeps him. I think he sleeps Gamrot, 3rd round KO.
What are these odds, Mark?
Want to guess?
Are they tight? They got to be tight. Pretty tight. Is Gamrot the favorite by a slight margin?
Gamrot's the favorite?
More. Is he?
Gamrot is minus 215.
Wow. Okay.
Jalen Turner plus 175, and that's on short notice.
Maybe
that factors into it, to be honest, in that Jalen Turner was preparing for a Dan Hooker and now has to shift gears for a complete wrestling scramble fest in a short amount of time. So maybe that's a factor in those odds. And that's kind of where my mind is going. Obviously, as we've said, Jalen Turner is the much bigger man, 5 inches taller, 5 inches of reach. the size always makes him dangerous. His ability to catch guys when they think they're out of range and they are not. But I think I'm just coming back to the wrestling. I think about that Matt Frivola loss that Jalen Turner has on his record, where he kind of just got held down and out-wrestled. I know that was 4 years ago now. There's been, you would think, a lot of progression in Jalen Turner's game since then. But I don't think we've seen another opponent who fits that mold where he could have proved it, that he has shored that up. And that's why I'm struggling here, because I'd like to assume that he has. But Gamrot is just so relentless and such a great scrambler, and the short notice where Turner, I don't think, has had a ton of time to prepare for this type of matchup. I just think he might be spending too much time on his back to end up winning this fight. I'm torn. I'm not a huge Gamrot guy either, but I think I just see the wrestling being the differentiator here. I'll say Gamrot UD.
Yeah, I think there is a greatness to Gamrot that is kind of undeniable at this point. I think his record reflects that. There's a couple of things that would be firsts in this fight. Gamrot has never been finished, and Jalen Turner has never won a fight by decision. So
Wow.
It's a case of what do you say? What do you say? The unstoppable force meets the immovable object.
Yes.
So Jalen Turner has never been in a fight that's gone to the distance that he has won. So if he's not knocking you out earlier in the fight, then he could lose. And he has been knocked out himself. And Gamrot's never been finished. I think Gamrot has too many skills. I think his skill set is going to overcome the size difference between the two of them. And I think it's going to be a scramble fest, like Mark said. And I think that Gamrot is going to wear Turner down. He's going to weather the early storm. And he's going to finish Jalen Turner in the third round by TKO. That's the pick. And, man, I'm a Jalen Turner guy. That guy's must-see TV. And for the size that he has at 155 pounds, I root for him, man. I do. But Gamrot's so good.
Yeah,
So
Turner's interesting as hell. Like, if he could pull this one off, he's...
Oh,
you know.
We're going. We're going.
Yeah.
The train is going. Okay, let's move on to the welterweight division. Yet another undefeated, I guess you can still kind of call him a prospect-ish, putting his undefeated record on the line in being Shavkat Rakhmonov, taking on Jeff Neal. So Jeff Neal, Hands of Steel, out of Texas, 32 years old, and it comes into the weekend with a professional record, 19 fights, 15 victories. Of those 15 victories, 9 by knockout. He's coming off of back-to-back wins against Santiago Ponzinibbio and Vicente Luque. He will be standing across from the Nomad, Shavkat Rakhmonov, from Kazakhstan. He is 28 years old, undefeated, 16-0, 16 fights, none have gone the distance. All finishes. Even 8 knockouts, 8 submissions. He is now 4-0 in the UFC. Once again, all finishes. Most recently finishing Neil Magny in round number 2 by guillotine. Mark, let's start with you. Give us your take and your pick, and please tell me these odds.
Shavkat Rakhmonov is minus 530. Jeff Neal is plus
Jeff Neal.
390.
Over Jeff Neal.
Yeah. I
Dude,
mean,
That's so crazy.
I thought you were going to say minus 5,000 for a minute, and I was going to be like, so.
I mean, that's what happens when you don't lose any rounds. You become a big favorite, man. I wrote down here 2-inch height advantage, 2-inch reach advantage. And I didn't write down who it's about, so that's not the most helpful stat in the world. Let's see. It is about Shavkat, correct? Yes, it's about Shavkat. I figured that.
Taller.
Okay, he's got the 2-inch height, 2-inch reach advantage on Jeff Neal. Shavkat Rakhmonov has been unbelievable. Like the true definition of unbelievable. It is hard to believe that he has been untouched as he has through his UFC run thus far. Nothing has been hard for him. He has not been troubled. He's walked through every fight. I just feel like if you are picking against him at this point, you're just doing it to be a contrarian, as good as Jeff Neal is. And as much as maybe it could happen and you look smart, I don't see how you actually make that pick. I think you have to go Shavkat here. Jeff Neal, I don't want to say, the guy's in the best form he's probably been in the UFC thus far. He looked fantastic in his last fight against Vicente Luque. He's peaking, but I think he is running into a guy who he cannot beat. I think he's going to get out grappled. I really don't know how he can keep Shavkat off him as much as he needs to win. And it's not like Shavkat is weak in the striking. Like, he may friggin' beat Jeff Neal there, for all we know. He may not even need the grappling. That's how good he's been. So, you got to go with him. I think this should be his toughest fight on paper. I'm very interested to see if we feel like, oh, shit, it's kind of competitive, or if he just walks through another one. That I feel like that's the biggest intrigue here for me, but I'm going to go with Shavkat Rakhmonov round 2 submission.
Omar.
I think it's hilarious. Like, if you're not going for Rakhmonov, just not getting it, just not there. I'm gonna go with Rakhmonov here. I don't really have a problem with Jeff Neal. He's just slightly underwhelming a lot of the time. A good finish in his last fight for sure, especially against a guy like Luque. Luque is not an easy fight on any day of the week, so definitely a fantastic performance there. Ponzinibbio fight was a close fight. I want to say particularly because Jeff Neal let it be a close fight. I feel like there were moments where he could have stepped on the gas and didn't. Anyway, Rakhmonov, like Mark has been saying, has been absolutely spectacular. His performances have been really stellar, stand out for sure. And I think it continues here, man. I think Jeff Neal is going in there with a lot of confidence, a lot of feeling that he's better, he's put in the work and all that stuff, and I think that that's fair. But I think Rakhmonov is just on a different level right now. We could all be very wrong, very possible. I don't think we are. I'm going to go with Rakhmonov by KO round 1.
I can't, I'm honestly surprised the odds aren't similar to what they were for, who was it? For Bo Nickel.
Bo Nickel? That would be too disrespectful to Jeff Neal.
But it's Jeff Neal. It's true. It's Jeff Neal. He's so fucking good. He just came out. He just knocked out Vicente Luque. God. It is impossible to go against Rakhmonov in this fight. Look, if I'm betting, sure, put a little bit of money on Jeff Neal because Jeff Neal's super good welterweight. But it's Shavkat, man. The guy is untouchable. And he's like one of these like unassuming looking guys.
Yeah.
I mean, he's from Kazakhstan. He doesn't speak a syllable of English. He's kind of just tall and skinny guy, but it's unbelievably efficient and strong grappler. He's great striking. He's just good everywhere. And how will he win? Don't know. I think he's gonna. It's just like pick it out of a hat. He's going to knock out Jeff Neal, and I'll say he's going to knock him out in round 2. Seems like a safe pick as far as Rakhmonov goes. Okay. Man, this card's great. What a great card. What a great main card.
Yes, it is.
Great overall card. Co-main event time. Women's flyweight. Title fight. Valentina the Bullet Shevchenko taking on Alexa Grasso. So Shevchenko, the 34-year-old out of Bishkek, Kazakhstan, No, Kyrgyzstan. She's 23-3 as a pro. Of those 3 losses, she's only lost to 2 women, whose names are Amanda Nunes, and Liz Carmouche. She lost to Carmouche many, many years ago, and has lost to Nunes twice now. Both of those fights were very, very close.
And the Carmouche loss was a fight she was winning where she got cut and it was stopped.
Oh, that's right. Was that in the UFC?
Nope. They rematched in the UFC, and she beat Liz. I think it was in a kind of no-name organization, if I'm recalling.
C3 Fights.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. Anyhow, she is 23-3. Of her 23 victories, 8 have come by knockout. 7 have come by submission. She's on a 9-fight win streak since her last split decision loss to Amanda Nunes. Most recently, a split decision win over Tayla Santos. She'll be standing across from the new challenger at women's flyweight in Alexa Grasso, the 29-year-old out of Jalisco, Mexico. She is 15-3 as a pro with 4 knockouts and 1 submission win on her record, 10 decisions. She's riding a 4-fight win streak coming into this Saturday night. Mark, let's start with you again. Give us your take and your pick. Shevchenko versus Grasso.
All right, Shevchenko is minus 750 as the favorite. Alexa Grasso is plus 550 dog.
Wow.
They are the same size. I do like Alexa Grasso. She's very talented. I've never been able to believe that she is elite, and I still don't at this point. I even look at who she beat to get here. It's a 4-fight win streak, and it's Ji-Yeon Kim, Macy Barber, Joanne Wood, Viviane Araujo. I mean, some solid fighters in there, but there's no one that makes me scream about how good Alexa Grasso is. I get people wanting to, nail the time Valentina loses, especially after we saw some vulnerability maybe in the last fight. And Grasso can box her ass off, so who knows, but I don't see it. I don't think it's the right matchup for someone to beat Valentina. I think that Grasso is durable and can probably hang around, but I think Valentina is better everywhere, frankly. I think she packs more power. I think Grasso is going to be eating kicks at all different levels throughout the fight. And when that's happening, I think her boxing is a little less effective. And if it ever was competitive in the striking, I think Valentina would just clinch and go to the grappling and handle it there. So I think there's too many avenues for her. I don't think Grasso has enough. My debate is, does Grasso last all 25? I will say yes. I will say Valentina UD.
Omar.
That's also where I'm at, to be honest. I think Grasso is an elite, but I just think Valentina Shevchenko is such a level above a lot of the women in that 125 division that the gap is just very wide. I do think Grasso is going to have a hard time touching Valentina. Valentina has a lot of beautiful movement in and out, a lot of strikes that go along with it, inside leg kick, outside leg kick, fucking heel kicks if she feels the need to, axe kicks, anything to go out and then back in with a little bit of, with something for them to think about on top of it. So I do think that Valentina is going to come out on top. I don't think she'll be able to finish Grasso just because Grasso is a tough opponent. I don't know if Valentina is going to be able to get hands on her as far as on the ground is concerned. I don't think Grasso would probably want it to go there, so I don't see the need for Valentina to have to take it down there in the first place, so I don't think we'll end up there. But I think Valentina wins by unanimous decision.
So both of you taking Valentina by UD. I love Valentina Shevchenko. She's one of my favorite fighters, period, not just one of my favorite female fighters. She probably is my favorite female fighter. I'm just so impressed with her every time she fights. She's just so technical. She's just so technical. She packs great power for the weight class. She's a tremendous grappler. She's very strong on the ground. She's heavy on top. I see her finishing this fight. I see her winning mostly on the feet. And if Grasso sees any light of day in striking, I see Valentina securing a takedown and working from the top. And I see her tiring Grasso out and bringing Grasso to places that she's really never been. And I see her getting a ground and pound finish. I'll say round number 4.
Like it.
Okay, boys.
Amen time.
I'm not drinking any alcohol tonight, but if this was, I would take a swig right now.
I will drink water with you.
So we're going to discuss now the return of John Bones Jones, challenging now for the heavyweight title in the UFC, the vacant heavyweight title against Ciryl Gane. John Jones has fought his whole career at 205 pounds and is widely considered by most to, at this point in time, be the greatest of all time in mixed martial arts. Effectively undefeated. Say what you want to say about his loss to Matt Hamill. I do not view that as a loss at all.
No.
Undefeated at 205 pounds. At the time that he was in it, it was a tremendous division filled with incredibly talented fighters, and he just closed out the whole division. And he beat everybody, and he beat everybody pretty handily. Only in his last few fights, because he keeps kind of going in and out of the UFC, has he looked not stellar, not incredible, not like a world beater, but he still came away with victories against Anthony Smith, against Thiago Santos, against Dominic Reyes. Formally putting it, Jones, 35 years old, out of Rochester, New York, 26-1 with no contest as well. That no contest as well as a fight that he won and got overturned because of, I believe that was the whole picograms incident.
Correct.
Of his 26 wins, 10 have come by knockout or TKO. Add 6 that have ended by submission. And his last fight was a unanimous decision over Dominic Reyes back in February of 2020. So quite a long layoff for John Jones. And just a real quick tangent, I thought of this before, I want to say before I forget. I haven't been able to find this out. I would love for this to be a trivia question. So if anybody knows what resource to check online, let me know. What is the longest number of days between UFC fights? And meaning like between consecutive fights in the UFC. The longest number of days. Okay. Jones' opponent standing across from him on Saturday night will be the former title challenger Ciryl Gane, Bon Gamin, out of Paris, France, 32 years old, 11-1 as a pro, 5 knockouts, 3 subs. Challenged for the belt against Francis back in January of 2022 in a losing effort. He lost by unanimous decision, falling victim to the grappling of Francis Ngannou, not the strikes. And then he got right back in the win column in very impressive fashion, knocking out Tai Tuivasa in the 3rd round in their fight this past September. Okay, Omar, final one of the night. Start us off here. Give us your take and ultimately your pick of Jones versus Gane for the vacant heavyweight belt.
So like I alluded to before, I'm still not sold that John Jones will make it to the octagon. But if he does, on paper, I think John Jones has every tool imaginable to beat Ciryl Gane. Ciryl Gane is a great striker, but if this was a kickboxing match, I think we'd have a different outlook on this fight. But the reality is John has a lot of different avenues that he can take here that don't require him getting beat up first and having to take a bunch of strikes. Him even catching a kick would do it. You know what I mean? And we know Ciryl Gane likes to throw his kicks, his long range kicks. Takedowns, I think, are going to be plentiful. Ground control, I think, is going to be evident. And I think we see the elbows of John Jones again return, hopefully, in true John Jones style from the salivary position or the crucifix position, for those of you who both names work. So I'm going to go with John Jones. TKO, round 1, the return of the GOAT.
Round one.
Dude, I think he fucking smokes Ciryl Gane. I honestly think he goes in there. I think it's really going to be a y'all must have forgot. I think he's got a lot more muscle on him. I don't think he could. I think he could have lifted Ciryl Gane before he went to heavyweight. And I think now that he's got real power that's planned, thought out, that he's essentially taken fucking 3 years to build on properly. Like, if you can't sun Ciryl Gane, I don't know what we're doing.
Mark, what are the odds for this fight?
So, interestingly enough, they actually
try.
started the opening odds with Ciryl Gane as the favorite.
Wow.
When the fight was first announced. I forget what it was. It was maybe something like Gane minus 140, John plus 110, something like that. They have now shifted the other way. You said you wanted to guess, Omar?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you right now, the bookies are about to fucking lose a lot of money. That's a weird flex there.
Well, no, that was the opening. They are not that currently.
I know. I wonder how much money came in before they were like,
Oh.
I wonder who fucked up this line here. I'm gonna go with John. I'll go with John minus 220, Ciryl plus 175.
So it's not that big. John is
wow,
minus
close.
is minus 165. Gane is plus 140.
Sure.
Oh, it's a lot closer.
So, despite the move up to heavyweight, John Jones, not shockingly, I guess, still the longer man. He will have a 3.5-inch reach advantage. They are the same height. Going to be awesome to see John Jones back in a cage. Knock on wood, assuming we get there, and assuming this man enters a cage and crawls his way out to the middle of an octagon when the bell rings. It's going to be awesome, whether you're a fan of him or not. For a dude this good to be on the sidelines this long and finally come back is going to be pretty cool. And this is one hell of a high-profile fight to be doing it in. So I am pumped for this one, and I think John Jones is going to do it. I think he is going to become the heavyweight champion of the world. I think he may even be fairly active and start a run. I know that's very wishful thinking. We will see. But I will point out some reasons why Gane is interesting. Obviously, we know he's unreal on the feet. His movement is silly. His grasp of striking with every limb is silly. He's maybe faster than half the light heavyweights that John Jones has fought throughout his career. Maybe even more than that. Like, he's that fast. We always say he's a heavyweight that moves like a welterweight. Yeah. He is a big, strong dude. Maybe the strongest John Jones has fought, most likely.
That's true.
He packs more power than you think he does, because a lot of times he is not throwing full power shots, but when he does, he'll hurt you.
Yeah, he's a big guy.
Someone with the range of Gane who can move like him and who stays, I think, as composed as Gane is in all exchanges, I think does present a real challenge for John Jones. I think Gane is going to try to kick the fuck out of John Jones' legs, probably calf kicks, so there's a little less of a risk of him getting grabbed for a takedown. As big as John Jones has gotten, his legs don't look terribly different. They still look like little chicken legs, and Ciryl Gane has some fucking tree trunks, so I'm sure he's going to try to be slamming them into John Jones' calves as much as he can. And it's probably going to feel like nothing John Jones has felt before. I mean, maybe in training, but at least not in a fight. I think Gane also gets to really focus on the takedown in regard to how he chooses to manage range, because I don't think he feels like he's necessarily at risk of getting hit with a one-hitter quitter from John, considering he's been in there with guys like Ty and guys like Ngannou, and it hasn't happened, and John doesn't really carry that same X factor. So I think that helps Gane. But as I said, I was presenting why I think Gane is interesting. I don't think it ends up guiding him to a victory. As much as I want to give a big detailed breakdown on why John Jones wins, it's just the wrestling. I think he is going to out-wrestle Ciryl Gane. Francis Ngannou out-wrestled Ciryl Gane. I don't see how Gane could possibly close that gap this quickly, not only to get to Ngannou's wrestling level, but to get a million miles past that to get to John Jones' wrestling level. I think Jones is really motivated which people wondered late in his 205 career of how much he really was into it. I think you can tell now that he is really into this opportunity to re-announce himself as the GOAT, to become the heavyweight champ, to be a two-weight champ. I think he is so smart that if anyone can figure out how to do the dance in there with Cyril Gane, it's him. I know sometimes he doesn't come out with the wrestling in a lot of these fights, and he kind of likes to play and feel things out. He has been talking up the wrestling nonstop in every interview, so I would like to believe he is going to come out and use it. And if so, I just don't think he can be stopped. I think he has success with the wrestling. I think once he does, that can even open some things up on the feet. And I think he eventually takes Cyril Gane out. I will not say it is as quick as Omar thinks. I'll say it takes, some moments and some strategy and some grinding Gane out a bit. But I will say by round 4, we get a ground and pound TKO win for Jon Jones.
Wow. Oh, man. Yeah. There are some things that make this fight more interesting. That's not quite the right word that I'm trying to say. Compelling? No. I'll say interesting. That being Jones's inactivity. He's been out of competition for 3 years. His drug use, his lifestyle that is apparent, his shenanigans out of the ring. And then paired with Gane's, his attributes, his striking prowess, his size. He's 6'5", around 240, 250. He's a really big guy who's going to stand eye to eye with Jon Jones, even though Jones is going to have still a longer reach. But yeah, it's just skill set, man. I think Jones is probably thanking the UFC gods for giving him this matchup for his first matchup at heavyweight, handing him the heavyweight belt basically, with a very favorable matchup for him, a guy who has very little wrestling ability and experience, who lost a decision because he got out wrestled by Francis Ngannou. Jon Jones is probably licking his chops, and he's going to be wearing a singlet coming out to the octagon on Saturday. And I don't see him getting a finish. I think it's going to be partly because of Gane's size and durability and activity on the ground, trying to avoid submissions, trying to get out of positions. But I have a little bit of a wet blanket take on this. I think it's going to be somewhat of an uneventful, anticlimactic main event. We're just going to see Jon Jones wrestle fuck Cyril Gane to the heavyweight title.
God, I hope that's not true, man.
Because let me just add one more addendum to that. Cyril Gane is not the guy, and I hope I'm proven wrong. I really do. And then another person in the comments is going to be like, worst take on a fight ever in hindsight. I don't think Cyril Gane is the heavyweight to give Jon Jones a fit. I think there is one man, and his name is Curtis Blades, who I would want to see match up against Jon Jones.
I will say I do see a lot. I think John Styles on him. I don't think this is going to be boring by any respect. I think, look, when Ngannou went to take down Gane, it was basically just double legs. Like literally wrestling 101, grab him below the ass, try to clench his knees together, get your hands clenched, pull out kind of takedowns, right? Jon Jones will suplex a motherfucker. From a position he really shouldn't be able to. There's not a ton of guys out here in the MMA world specifically who can throw a man a lateral drop from double overhooks. No underhooks on a throw. There's maybe a handful, if that, of men who can do that currently in all of MMA. Jon Jones is one of those men. I see this man, I see it being WWE potentially in the first 3-4 minutes of a lot of Cyril Gane getting his ass slammed, trying to get back up, getting wrecked again, getting back up, until he gets to a point where Jon Jones has gotten a position on the ground that Cyril Gane is not comfortable being in, doesn't know how to get out of it, and Jon Jones is going to rain down almighty hell on his face. I think that's just really what it's going to end up being, man. I think, like Mark said, he's motivated. He's got a reason to style. He's got a reason at this point to prove to everybody that Ciryl Gane doesn't belong in there, that the heavyweights of that division don't belong. And I think he's going to show out. I hope he does.
Are you rooting for John Jones?
I'm not rooting for Ciryl Gane.
You're not? Why not? What's wrong with Gane? He's a nice guy.
He's boring, dog. He's not a fighter. Not a fighter. He's a boring personality. For me.
So I was gonna say,
Sorry.
let us not forget the way Ciryl Gane came out in the Tai Tuivasa fight compared to his prior fights.
100%.
That Ciryl Gane was suddenly aggressive as fuck. And if he can come out like that in this fight and maybe clip John a little bit early and get John thinking like, oh fuck, like that hurt. That was a big shot.
Yeah, but
You never
unlike
know.
Tai Tuivasa, there is no reaction in any bone of Tai Tuivasa's body where he ducks under for a double leg in response to any shot.
Correct.
John
I'm trying
Jones,
to build it. I'm trying to build it.
John Jones might take a shot or two before being like, fuck that. And he goes right for a double leg, and we never see Gane standing upright for the rest of the fight.
Yes.
Like,
Another interesting aspect that could kind of complicate Jones's wrestling is that Gane is not a conventional striker. Especially for heavyweights. That man is a long-range missile thrower, and he might not be there for Jones to grab.
he might also have
agree.
power
He's
now.
very elusive.
He might have
And
power
light on
now.
his feet.
Like, he's been training. He's a big boy now.
Oh yeah, man.
He might actually have found a right hand. It's totally possible.
Are you talking about John?
Yeah.
Very, very interesting. Can't wait for this one.
Imagine we got like a right hook knockout for John Jones on the feet.
Imagine this man
knockout
throws
Ciryl
an
Gane.
overhand and Ciryl Gane just goes face down.
Yeah. Be crazy.
Yeah?
Crazy.
No, definitely not.
gonna happen.
I'm telling you, man, I see elbow galore from the bottom. Like,
That's
if it
what I
were
think.
me, I know
Elbow
for a
ground
fact Ciryl Gane, if he gets onto crucifix bottom, he's not getting up. He's not getting up. 100%. I will put money on that. He's not getting up.
It's too heavy.
I'm seeing half guard, big posture up elbows. That's how I envision my finish.
Part of it is potentially the size, Mike, but realistically, Gane doesn't know how to get out of a position like that with a guy in John Jones who seemingly mastered a salivary position early on in his career when he was before he was a champ. I don't see it, man.
I'm
just
picking
don't see
Jones
it.
too.
Oh, Omar, you better hope this ain't close because you are fucking confident.
If it is close, it's because goddamn John Jones did nothing. It's because John Jones was still doing this Dominic Reyes fucking performance, this Oven St. Preux performances, like where he does just enough to get by and doesn't really like. If we're talking about a John Jones that is motivated, that is out there, that is kill or be killed, that is on one on Saturday, I expect wholeheartedly John Jones to go out there and murder Ciryl Gane.
But we also know his history. We know that there have been many times that he has not even been motivated, and he still goes out and murders guys.
I agree. I mean, he at least goes out there and beats guys. You know what I mean? The Dominic Reyes one, I think, might be the only one that was like maybe arguable as far as the actual decision.
I still scored that fight for him as close as it was.
Yeah, but there are arguments that could be made. I think everybody else there, it's been pretty clear otherwise, including the actual loss he has on his record.
Well, hey, guess what? It's not 1 a.m., and we're pretty much done. Do you want to hear some trivia?
Yeah.
I do. Can I add one last note on John Jones?
Please.
I keep adding notes to try to make this fight interesting. The person, in my opinion, who gave John Jones the most trouble of his entire run was Thiago Santos. And I think that Thiago Santos is the most similar person John Jones has ever fought to Ciryl Gane.
Well, that's true.
I thought that fight was closer than the Reyes fight.
Or Gus isn't?
Huh?
Or Gus won?
Or Gus won, I guess.
I don't even know if I hold Gus one now in that crazy ass regard because he got wrecked in the second one And we all know that John Jones was basically coked out of his mind or whatever it was before the fight. So there's so many asterisks in this guy's career. It's so crazy to me.
It is, man.
All right, what's the trivia?
Yes.
I need to go to
Hit
bed.
us.
Do either of you have trivia?
Fuck no.
No, not today. Dude, I was
2-1.
I was just
We
telling
did pretty
you guys,
good. 2.5 hours. That's about the best we could have done.
I totally forgot we were even doing this until like 3 hours ago.
Here we go. I have 2 tonight.
Of course you do.
If you want, I could save one for another time.
No, do it.
John Jones will be adding seconds and minutes to his record of most total fight time in title bouts across all divisions, with 4 hours, 39 minutes, and 47 seconds worth of title fights. Isn't that fucking crazy?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
Segue. A different man named Rafael Dos Anjos holds the record for total fight time in any and all bouts, with 8 hours, 1 minute, and 49 seconds, with fights in both the lightweight and welterweight divisions. However, RDA does not hold the record for total fight time in all bouts for either of those divisions. Do you follow?
Yep. Do you follow,
First
Omar?
question.
No.
Okay.
So he holds
Of
the
all
overall.
fighters.
Go ahead.
Of all fighters overall, RDA holds the record for most total fight time.
Okay.
But his fights are split across lightweight and welterweight.
I see what you're saying.
And he does not hold the record
For either one of those.
divisionally.
Got it.
Okay, fill in the blanks. I never give you guys fill in the blanks. So this is tough, but I think the two of you are enough of MMA minds to give this a crack. Which 2 fighters hold the records for most total fight time in any and all bouts in the lightweight and welterweight divisions, respectively? So which
title or
lightweight-
or any or
So
just
it's not
overall?
title.
title and non-title fights, all fights,
Just period in the division.
total octagon fight time in any and all fights?
I thought he was gonna ask his championship. I was ready with my fucking GSP pick. I was like, it's got to be GSP.
No, that would be so,
My
so easy.
mind immediately goes to Frankie Edgar because
for
I
lightweight.
know he had so much fight time. But I don't know if he stayed at lightweight long enough to be the number 1 at lightweight. I think he's like second in the overall
I
behind
agree.
RDA or
Yeah.
third, something like that.
I thought he was first. I was actually surprised to hear that RDA was first. I totally missed that.
I mean,
Lightweight and welterweight, most total octagon fight time. Most
Jim
minutes.
Jim
Miller's
Miller.
gotta be up there.
Yeah. That was where I was just landing for lightweight.
I wanted to say Cowboys up there, but he was split divisions also, so it's not going to be him. Plus, he had a lot of quick finishes. I haven't even thought about welterweight yet. I'm trying to work through lightweights in my brain.
I'll go with GSP.
Title
GSP.
fights help you because if you're in there for 25, you get 10 extra minutes compared to other fights.
Yeah. And he was in the. I mean, a lot of his fights, even the earlier days, he was still finishing people, but he still took his time from here every now and again. So I'll go with GSP. GSP and Jim Miller.
I'm not having an answer that I like pop into my brain for the welterweight division. That GSP is the only one that's like
Oh, is it?
coming in my mind.
Could it be Magny?
Fuck, it could be Magny. That ain't bad. That ain't bad. I mean, it could be like Hughes too. He had 1 million fights.
Son of a bitch.
And they were all at welterweight.
All right, give us the lightweight here. Is it Jim Miller? Because I think we
Wait,
both.
well,
landed on Jim Miller.
I didn't finalize my.
Oh, I thought you were on
Yeah.
Jim Miller.
I think I'm on Jim Miller. I mean, Oliveira's had a million fights, but so many of them were quick. It can't be him.
Yeah.
You narrowing it down? Which one? Are you solid on one or the other?
Am I what?
Are you guys solid on one or the other?
I landed on
I'm-
Jim Miller for
I'm-
lightweight.
Yeah, he's on Jim Miller. I'm trying to give you my lightweight guess. I think it's Jim Miller though. We're both gonna just go with Jim Miller. I was trying to think of someone different so we could have two different guesses, but that's who I'll say.
And welterweight?
Oh wait, you're not gonna tell us that one first?
Yeah.
Okay, I can. Yeah.
Yeah.
The answer is Jim Miller.
Hey, let's go.
Jim Miller with 6 hours, 18 minutes, and 59 seconds at lightweight. That's crazy. Okay, welterweight, you ready?
Are we gonna have the same fucking guess at welterweight too? Because I think I'm still on GSP right now.
I'll do Neil Magny. I'll go Neil Magny.
And Mark is saying GSP?
Yeah.
The answer is Neil Magny.
Okay.
Let's fucking
Magny.
go.
I started
Most
to wonder
time-
about Nick Diaz.
Most time at welterweight with 5 hours, 59 minutes, and 19 seconds.
Great guess, Omar.
What
Well
a
done.
what a
I
good
think you
show
guys
for
didn't need
Omar.
multiple choice. I feel like multiple choice could have been tricky too, depending on who I picked. But
That was good.
yeah, I haven't done many fill in the blanks for you guys, but you guys, you're capable.
Yes. Especially
Okay.
when we talk it out. It was a good sounding
Question number
board
2,
there.
and let's get
yeah.
out of here. Here we go. This is multiple choice. So right now, John Jones is tied for third place for most pay-per-view main events with 16 pay-per-view main events.
Fuck.
This weekend, John Jones will be main eventing a pay-per-view for his 17th time in his career, which will then tie him for second place. Who is in first place with 18 pay-per-view main events? Is it A, Randy Couture, B, George St. Pierre, C, Anderson Silva, or D, Tito Ortiz?
GSP's where my mind went first. Then I heard Couture, and I think I'm going to say him. But I don't know. Yes, I will guess Couture.
These are all guys. They're all up on the list. They're all
You said
up there.
pay-per-view specifically?
Yeah, main event of a pay-per-view, right?
Pay-per-view main eventing.
Oh.
Oh, man.
I was going to go
Maybe it's
with the exception of 200. But
I mean, like I said, all 4 of these guys are way up there. And to your point, yeah, all of them, pretty much every time they fought, were in the main event.
Yeah, they're gonna be separated by, like, one each.
Ortiz.
But I'll guess Couture.
I've already told you the numbers. Jones is tied in third with 16 main events. He will be tied in second place with 17 main events, and the first place only
go with
has
Tito
18.
Ortiz.
So they're all right there. And Mark
Son
said
of a
what?
bitch.
Randy.
The answer is Randy Couture
He was.
with 18. That's a shit ton. I mean, he's there from so early. His first one pay-per-view was Japan. Then he did 28, 31, 34, 36, 39.
He was in the era where there was
43,
nothing but
44,
pay-per-views.
46, 49, 52,
I think so was
57,
Tito for that
68,
matter. but I guess
74,
Tito just had
91,
less.
102, 105, and 109.
Yeah, dude. He was a big deal.
Yeah.
Tito Ortiz, man, main evented 16 pay-per-views for the UFC.
Wow.
That's nuts, dude. Yeah, man. Tito back in the day, and Tito was a little bit before the three of us, our time. Like,
Yeah.
Tito was fighting Chuck for the second time when I was coming online as an MMA fan. But, like, for the years before that, Tito was a motherfucker.
Oh yeah, I think I said this to you guys after COVID when I went back and like watched from the infancy onward of UFC and Pride. One of my main takeaways overall, and obviously I knew Tito, but one of my main takeaways was that Tito Ortiz was better than I ever realized.
Yeah.
He was a stud.
It was like, no, you're done. Should we just sign off?
Well,
Okay.
we are still hearing Omar, but you guys are not because he has been
Yeah.
booted. So his little point about cradle to the grave will have to wait till next time. If hopefully you guys can make it a week waiting to hear this.
It's a grave reference.
What
Thanks
other
for,
shit can
thanks
we
for
talk
joining
about?
us. Enjoy this awesome pay-per-view this weekend, and we will check in with you guys next week.
It was a pleasure. We are out.
Peace.
Peace.